The exploded ships fell to the ground only to create another mushroom cloud explosion. Michael was blasted away by the force, and he landed on the mud after flying for at least 10 meters like a kite without an anchor in the storm. "Grr," Michael growled, feeling the aching pain in every single part of his body. He injected himself with the healing potion, but it did not heal his body at all. "I hate this place." Now Michael realized why Hunter said this universe was the most dangerous one of them all. Being in this universe with his body made him vulnerable. Only if he had access to arch energy or celestial energy, he might have hated the place less. After picking himself from the ground, Michael leaned on the broken trebuchet beside him and took some deep breaths. Boom. Once again a thunderous explosion swept across the area, but fortunately, it produced less force than before. Still, the blast happened where Don was standing. If any normal human being was caught in the explosion, they wouldn't survive in a million years. However, Michael knew Don was not a normal human being. After all, he just saw Don bring down 2 frigate-sized ships from the sky with his raw strength. Although Don used battle energy to enhance his strength, no one could have done the same even if they had battle energy running through their veins. Instead, it required an immense amount of raw power to bring down the ships. Michael would have chosen to sabotage the ships from within, but something told him Don had no choice. All those who survived White Death died in the explosion, and the rest who didn't get on the ship lay around the farm field without moving an inch. The fire burnt many of them, and Michael doubted they would survive for much longer. He couldn't care less about them. Those soldiers tried to capture him. Hence, Michael felt no pity for the soldiers. Instead, Michael looked around the farm field, taking his gaze away from the raging fire where Don was standing. Michael would have gone into the fire if he had his powers. If he tried to get near the raging hot flames now, he would be melted like a candle. Even standing several meters away from the explosion site, he sweated as he was inside an oven. As he was breathing heavily, Michael heard storm clouds rumbling in the distance. Surprisingly, the thunderclaps sounded so close to Michael. He quickly looked above as he felt like the sound was coming from above him. The moment he saw the sky, he felt a chill running through his spine. At that point in time, a vortex appeared in the sky, and Michael noticed the monster peeking through the vortex head first. "Holy fuck!" Michael shouted as he frantically looked around. His mind told him to prepare for a fight instead of waiting for someone else to come and save him. Therefore, Michael looked around to find something. Since he lost the arch energy, it was doubtful the monster would still possess any arch energy to fight. The only advantage the monster had over him was its superior size. If he could repair the broken trebuchet beside him, he could fight it without using spells. While limping towards the trebuchet's broken pulley system, Michael wondered how the hell the monster could travel from the Shadow Realm to here. Visit. For the best no_vel_ed_ng experience, to be honest, Michael thought only he could travel between realms. But he was proven wrong when the monster crawled through the vortex in the sky. The monster's head was out and it was squeezing the rest of its body through the vortex. While it was squeezing through, the monster noticed Michael with its big eyes. As a result, the monster screamed with pure hatred and anger. "What the hell did I ever do to you?" Michael showed the monster his middle finger and picked up a few broken planks as well as some metal pieces from the ground. The monster screamed as loud as it could, and its roar sounded louder than the thunderclaps themselves. Michael quickly rushed his word as the monster seemed more pissed off after he showed his middle finger. "System, you fuck. Where are you?" He tried to summon the system, but once again he received no response from the system. The last time the system went offline was when it screamed something about omegas. So Michi wondered if the system's unresponsiveness was related to the omegas. Michael didn't completely blame the system as he knew the system wouldn't go offline suddenly without reason. Still, he was pissed at the monster coming to kill him and he had no one to blame. Inch by inch, the monster crawled out of the vortex. But suddenly, the monster screamed as it dashed out of the vortex, finally coming out. The monster began to fall from the sky. Michael wished the monster would break its legs or die when it hit the ground. However, the monster's superior size would save it from dying instantly. Besides, unlike Michael, the monster was falling from a lower height. Michael rushed to fix the trebuchet. The only thing that could save him from the monster was the trebuchet. Deep down he hoped Don would come out of the fire, yet when Michael looked over his shoulder he saw no one walking out of the fire. Boom. Finally, the monster landed on the ground, creating a large crater-like meteor. Michael started at the crater without batting an eye. After the vortex disappeared from the sky, he heard no sound except the whistling wind and thunder rumbling. However, soon Michael saw the monster's hand as the monster climbed out from the crate. The monster was 16 feet tall and several feet wide. Michael looked small compared to the monster, and even the trebuchets looked tiny. Grrh. The monster growled as its gaze swept across the battlefield until its gaze stopped at Michael. Then, locking its eyes with Michael, the monster exhaled, letting a puff of smoke out of its nostrils. Visit. For a better user experience, the monster slowly lifted his hand, pointing its finger at Michael. Damn it, what did I do? Michael cursed his luck. I need fire. Thanks to his inventor skills, Michael found a way to fix the trebuchet with what he had. A couple of planks, metal pieces, and some torn clothes. Unfortunately, he needed fire but couldn't summon his dark flames. Meanwhile, the monster began to walk towards its target, growling. Each step of the monster caused a tremor and produced ominous pounding sounds. Michael frantically looked around to find a flame, but there was only one fire source on the battlefield, the place where Don brought 2 ships down. Well, fuck it. Michael threw the planks and metal pieces in his hand to the ground and began to rush toward the fire. He hoped his robes would protect him against the fire, and even if he did get burned, he could heal himself when he returned to his universe. The monster noticed Michael limping towards the fire as it started to speed up its steps. The monster closed the 100 or so meter distance between them in a couple of seconds, and soon, it reached a hand-reaching distance from Michael. Boom. However, when the monster tried to grab Michael, the monster awkwardly flew back before crashing down like a broken airplane. Michael heaved a sigh of relief as he looked over his shoulder to see an object soar through the air. Michael closed his eyes for a second, replaying what just happened in his mind. The monster was chasing him, and something came from the fire and hit the monster in the chest, sending it flying. He replayed the scenes again to recall what hit the monster. A warhammer. Michael saw a vague shape of a warhammer with one pointy head and a blunt head. It was painted black and decorated with golden runes. Grrrr. The monster screamed from a distance. It struggled to stand up, but eventually, it did. Suddenly, Michael heard a rustling sound as he turned his gaze towards the fire to see Don calmly walking out of the fire with the warhammer in his hands. The raging hot flame that melted the metal like a candle didn't harm him. He calmly walked through the fire. That ugly thing bothering you? These were Don's first words to Michael. Before Michael could nod, he noticed a black bow that looked directly stripped out from an anime or a game. Visit. For the best no understanding experience thud. Don put the warhammer down as he raised his bow. With another flick of his wrist, Don retrieved 6 black arrows and knocked them on the bow's string, surprising Michael. First, Don didn't look like a bow and arrow guy. Second, even Gaia could fire only 3 arrows at the same time. But Don knocked 6 arrows on the bowstring and pulled them back. Don waited until the monster took a few steps toward them, and when it took its 5th step, Don released the arrows. As soon as the arrows left the bow, they created a shock wave that pushed Michael a step back. In addition, the arrows produced a loud bang like Don had just fired a gun. Boom, 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 boom. Michael heard loud explosions sweeping across the farm field as he noticed the monster's body parts starting from head to toe, exploding into red mist in a straight line. Sigh. Michael heaved a sigh of relief when the arrows shattered the monster into pieces. Even after killing a terrifying monster, Don showed no expression on his face. The bow and warhammer vanished into thin air as he turned his gaze towards Michael. Come on, Ghost, we have a lot to talk about. Michael was stunned by Don as the latter called Michael by his name just like Hunter. Cat. Michael noticed a dim glow in Don's ear. Teleport us back to Everlight. Michael sensed the air around him becoming colder and his vision blurred in a blink of an eye. Welcome to Everlight. Michael heard a sweet melodious voice from behind. The latest _IP_SODIes are on the website. At the moment, Michael was standing on a stoned road between endless paddy fields. The fields looked like 2 golden bedsheets blanketing the ground. He could see another farm field far away from where he was. Instead of humans, the paddy fields were worked by all races. He was surprised to see the dwarves, elves, orcs, beastmen, and humans working together, and looking at the smiles on their faces, he could tell they were joyful folks. To be honest, Michael was stunned. The sight around him was too beautiful. The sweet smell of paddy and the sound of the fields dancing in the wind soothed his soul. His momentary bliss was abruptly cut short when he heard a melodious voice from behind. Only then did Michael realize that Don wasn't there. He slowly turned around, only to be stunned by the elf standing in front of him. She was beautiful, no, she was an angel. Her golden hair made the golden paddy fields pale in comparison. It danced around her shoulder as her hazel eyes stared at Michael with curiosity. She was the most beautiful girl among all the girls Michael had seen. No one could be remotely compared to her beauty, not even Gaia or Layla. The elf was in a different realm when it came to beauty. Michael had never felt speechless like this ever before. Her smooth skin, coupled with her perfect hourglass figure, stunned him. The emerald green robe she was wearing perfectly complemented her tall, majestic body. "You must be the Otherworlder," she smiled slightly, making Michael's heart skip a beat. But Michael quickly snapped out of being mesmerized by the beauty. "Otherworlder?" Michael questioned. "Where are my manners?" "I am Amaryl Cameron, and you," she blinked curiously, "must be Ghost, one and only." Michael smiled, knowing there was no point in hiding his identity when obviously she knew about him. Because of Michael's focus on Amaryl and her beauty, his brain didn't process the majestic castle on the horizon. The castle towers stood way above the clouds while the magnificent waterfall behind the castle helped the sky form a beautiful rainbow across the castle. The scenery looked stripped straight off from a fairy tale book. Michael had never seen such a huge castle in his life. Countless round towers formed a protective barrier all around the castle, and they were all connected by lower, chunky walls made of gray stone. Just as the towers, countless windows scattered here and there in the walls asymmetrically, along with asymmetric crenellations for archers and artillery. Compared to the castle of Everlight, the Guardian headquarters looked like a shabby house. The farmers working the fields waved their hands with full smiles at Amaryl as they walked towards the gate. The castle ground was guarded with great metal doors, a regular bridge, and large crenellations. As they were walking towards the castle gate, Michael noticed a group of elven and human girls approaching them with buckets full of flowers in their hands. When they saw Michael, they stopped gossiping as they just stared at him without batting an eye. "Visit. For a better user experience, Lady Amaryl." They quickly bowed and greeted Amaryl. "Didn't I tell you to call me Amaryl when Night and Dawn are not around?" They let out a reluctant smile as Amaryl noticed some of their gazes on Michael. Each and every girl in the group was pretty enough to rival the most angelic beauties in Michael's world. "Lady Amaryl," one of the elves threw a glance at Michael. "He is our guest. So behave yourselves." "Oh." The girls pouted as Amaryl and Michael continued their journey towards the gate. "How may I address you?" After the girls walked past them, Michael asked Amaryl. "Amaryl works just fine. Since you are not from this world, it'll be awkward for you to call me Lady Amaryl. Also, who knows what you are in your own world? Heck, you might even be a king." It was evident to Michael the elf was chatty Cathy. She talked non-stop, and Michael could sense she had so many questions in her mind to ask him. Otherwise, she wouldn't look at him so often in the corner of her eyes. "Rest assured I am not a king. Do you know anything about me besides my name? How did you even know my name?" "How else? Knight told me." "In fact, they have been expecting you for some time," Amaryl surprised Michael. "It's unfortunate you appeared in the middle of a battlefield. What happened back there anyway?" "Don wouldn't leave his training ground so easily. Instead of telling Aurora to meet you, he himself personally went there. You must be pretty important to him." "Where is he?" asked Michael. "Must be with Knight or went to bring back Aurora." "Don doesn't like when Aurora goes on a killing spree," Amaryl sighed. "Killing spree? All those people, were they killed by one person?" Michael was shocked because even the scared soldiers were at the soul refining stage. The battlefield was littered with dead bodies, and Michael saw at least hundreds of bodies. If they were all killed by one person, they would be at least the fusion stage or half-immortal stage. While talking to Amaryl, Michael noticed the two guards flanking the castle gates. They were in full black metal armor covered from head to toe. Surprisingly, they all wore a cape that looked more than just a cloth. Noticing Amaryl and Michael approaching the gate, the black-armored soldiers pushed open the gates to reveal the castle grounds. Just like Michael expected, the castle grounds were artistic and ravishingly beautiful. The neatly pruned grass field, the colorful flowers dancing in the wind, the fountains spraying water and the rainbows above them, the sound of joyful laughter and giggles, everything merged to paint a picture in Michael's mind. "Visit. For the best she experienced, Lady Amaryl." The guards bowed as Michael stared at them. Immediately he was stunned by the guards. Core strengthening stage level 10, each of them was at core strengthening stage 10. Michael would have lost his mind if Amaryl's power wasn't at the core formation stage. Every single one in the place seemed so OP. Now Michael understood why Hunter warned Michael about this universe. As Michael followed Amaryl into the castle ground, many people threw their glances at Michael. "Is that His Majesty?" "No. It's not. He looks like our Majesty, must be a friend of His Majesty. Look how he dressed. He looks friendly though," Amaryl giggled, hearing the conversations around her. You do look like Dawn. Dressed in all black and wielding two swords, Amaryl climbed the stairs leading to the throne hall and said to Michael, "But you seem to smile more, unlike our Dawn. You have a better chance of seeing the sun rise in the west than seeing Dawn smile." Amaryl didn't hold back as she talked. To be honest, Michael liked the girl. She seemed so pure and good-hearted. He didn't feel any bad vibrations from her. "When can I meet Dawn?" Michael asked, climbing the stairs with her. "Soon. But first we have a feast planned for you. So you will eat and enjoy our Everlight hospitality. Then you boys can play whatever you want." To be honest, Michael was kind of hungry and smelled something delicious in the air. Since he had no arch energy in the universe, he felt hungry and exhausted. Thus, Michael wanted to eat something and get his strength back. Who knows when the system would come online and he would get back to the Shadow Realm. Besides, unlike when he visited other universes, he was in his physical form in Dawn's. So he wanted to make the most out of this trip. Visit. For a better user experience, so if you don't mind me asking, do you have any lion with wings here? As soon as Amaryl heard Michael, she stopped climbing the stairs and burst into melodious laughter. "Ha ha!" Michael creased his brows as Amaryl punched him on the shoulder playfully. "Lion with wings, he. I never heard someone call Knight lion with wings in a long time." Finally Amaryl stopped laughing and resumed climbing the stairs. "You will meet him soon. He just left to kill the king of Valencia. He will be home for lunch," she said so casually, like killing a king was not a big deal. Even for Michael, killing a king would bring him unwanted risks and dangers to him. Yet these people of Dawn seemed to care less about threats. Maybe it was because all of them were so OP. Finally, when Michael climbed almost 50 steps, he was welcomed by the majestic throne hall. Lustrous braziers enclosing each of the 6 basalt columns lit up every part of the throne hall, allowing shadows to play and dance where light could not reach. The large mirrors on the layered ceiling danced in the flickering light. At the same time, statues of Dawn and Night looked down upon the gray wood floor of this extravagant hall. A verdigris rug ran down from the throne for a few meters before ending, while ribbon banners with golden tufts dangled gently from the walls. Between each banner hung a lantern. They've all been lit and illuminated the mosaics of various persons below them. Huge, stained glass windows depicting ancient legends were concealed by black draperies as the curtains were adorned with impressive needlework and jewels. At the end of the throne hall, the throne of Dawn sat majestically upon an elevated platform looking down. The throne resembled several dragons coiling around each other, forming one domineering throne to rule the world. The throne sat beneath the overlooking statue of a dwarf holding a battle axe. It was adjoined by several large but far less ornate thrones for the founding members of Everlight. The throne was covered in textured, layered marks, and a gem-encrusted head of a dragon was fixed on each of the elegant armrests. The light pillows were dark verdigris, which had also been adorned with ornate plumes. Those wishing to witness Dawn could do so on the many lightly illuminated wooden benches, all of which were facing the thrones. "Where is that little brat?" When they both stepped onto the silent throne hall, Amaryl looked around. Boo! Suddenly Michael felt rustling behind as his instincts kicked in. In a blink of an eye, Michael unsheathed his sword, turning around. However, as soon as Mitchie turned around with his 2 swords, his hand stopped because a teenage girl was floating in the air with a bright grin on her face. "Visit. For the best no understanding experience, did I startle you?" The girl tilted her head with a playful haughty smile as Amaryl stepped towards Michael. "Cataly, you shouldn't scare people like that." Michael lowered his swords from the girl's neck and sheathed them back. He was actually quite surprised to see the girl resembling Azazel's ghostly state. But what stunned Michael was the girl's power. She would be at the half-immortal stage if she was in his world. "I just wanted to see how our otherworldly friend is doing," Cataly said with a smile. "Ghost, this is Cataly. Cataly Lees Levitt, Ghost? So it's true?" The girl's eyes opened wide. "Can you please tell me what's going on here?" Michael frowned. He had enough of the cryptic messages and wanted to know how these people knew him. "Follow me," Cataly nodded, then she hovered away, leading him towards the door behind the throne. Michael followed Cataly behind as Amaryl walked by his side. "My father, who built this castle, gave me control of every room except—" Cataly paused for a moment, waving her hand. Then the metal door slowly opened, revealing the brightly lit corridor as they resumed their journey. "Except a room in the far end of the castle," Cataly said, floating before Michael. "Until when Uncle Ken arrived at Everlight, I had no what was inside the room." "What's inside the room?" Michael couldn't help asking. Unexpectedly, Cataly shook her head. "No one knows. Uncle Ken just told us that there is only one who can open the door. You." Michael exhaled as he was tired of being shocked by them. He silently followed her, thinking about his connection to Don's universe. The question of why he was in Don's universe in his physical form kept nagging his mind. Maybe the future me visited Everlight? Michael questioned himself. His thoughts made sense as he couldn't find any more possibilities. How could they know about Michael if he hadn't visited Everlight? So this Uncle Ken of yours told you about me? Michael questioned Cataly and Amaryl. Not until recently, Amaryl answered Michael instead. Visits? For a better user experience, Regis had foreseen your arrival. She kept saying four-headed monster had woken up. Michael immediately thought of the Hydra he saw in Stormville Mountain. Now after hearing Amaryl, his brain started to make the connections. He recalled Hunter's words to him, "You reek of the Queen's scent, Ghost. If I am right, and I usually am, you had already come across one of her generals?" At that time, Michael only guessed it could be the Hydra in the Stormville Mountain. When I say generals, it's not the human generals you might have met. These abominations could end all life on a planet within a few hours. So imagine what their queen is capable of. Hunter's words sounded in his mind. There was also no doubt in Michael's mind that the Hydra Regis dreamed of and the General Hunter talked about were the same. "We should talk about this here, Sister Amaryl. Let's get somewhere private and let Uncle Ken explain everything to him." Cataly's voice became serious as the playfulness on her face disappeared. Soon, neither of them uttered a word as Michael followed Cataly in silence until they reached the end of the corridor. However, there was no door before them but a gray wall. "Through here." Cataly placed her ethereal hand on the gray wall as the wall slowly faded away. It was an illusion, but a great one at that. After the wall completely disappeared out of existence, what stood before them was a spacious hall lit with several braziers. The golden light radiated from the brazier illuminated the statue and a door built with shiny black metal. The trio slowly stepped into the hall. Michael's legs automatically walked toward the door with countless engraved symbols and runes. However, his eyes weren't looking at the door. Instead, he was looking at the 20-feet statue of a man. The stature resembled a man holding two swords as his long coat fluttered behind him. Although the face was not distinguishable, Michael knew the man. It was him. Someone had built a statue of him and put it in the hall. But why and how? That was Michael's question. "That's you." Suddenly, Michael heard a deeper, wilder, and stronger voice. It was a sort of heavy, golden voice. The voice made him turn around, and when he did, he saw a white-furred lion with majestic wings gracefully walking toward them. "Knight," Michael mumbled after being stunned by the lion. It had such grace. No matter how hard Michael tried, he couldn't sense Knight's cultivation level. However, he felt the distortion in the space around him, indicating Knight's power. Being mesmerized by Knight, Michael almost failed to notice the gray-haired man walking behind Knight. It's really him, the ghost. He is a myth no more," the gray-haired man stuttered as his face became pale. "Do I know you?" Michael asked. No, but I know you. Only a few people know you." Visit? For a better user experience, but now he's the only one, Knight interjected, circling Michael. "Please tell me what the hell is going on here," Michael asked the old man. "By the way, he is Uncle Ken." Amaryl quickly introduced Ken to Michael. "To explain, I need to first tell you where I came from." Ken, the gray-haired old man, sighed as Knight came in front of Michael. "I came to Everlight from the future. So everything I know and am about to tell you has happened in the future, and that future has become our past." Michael listened to the old man without batting an eye or uttering a word. "In the future or the time I came from had mentions about an otherworlder who visited Everlight in dire times. There wasn't much about this otherworlder except his name Ghost. According to the ancient scripts, Ghost helped Everlight and fought beside His Majesty Don's descendants. But only a few knew his origins. In return for his help, His Majesty's descendants and the founder's descendants built this room." Michael looked around the room. His heartbeat raised while he tried to wrap his mind around what Ken said. There was no mention of why Ghost helped or what he received in return. "However, I believe this room contains more about your visit to Everlight in the future." As he said, Ken took a couple of steps and touched the metal door. "Before I traveled to this timeline from mine, we faced something that threatened all of our existence. At that time we were desperate. We tried to open this door as we believed if we could somehow summon the legendary Ghost we could survive. But we failed." When Ken looked at Michael, he could see the pain in Ken's eyes. "Only you can open this door, Lord Ghost. Whatever you're looking for, it's in there." Under their curious gazes filled with excitement and anticipation, Michael stepped towards the door, placed his hand and expected something to happen. As soon as he touched the door, Mitchie felt electricity running through his spine, followed by acute pain in his brain. System back online? Michael heard the system's sound and felt a tremendous pressure lifted from his shoulder. He wanted to question the system, but before he could talk to the system, the door produced a creaking noise, slowly opening. Everyone took a step back as the door opened inch by inch. They all waited for the door to completely open, revealing what the room had been hiding for centuries. Finally, the door wholly opened, and they all saw an empty room with a shield and a golden parchment inside a glass box. Michael was surprised because he had imagined a shield in his mind, and the shield inside the glass box looked just like the one he had imagined. It was black, round and had a crimson-red skull in the center. There was nothing besides the glass box in the center of the room. Michael did not wait for them but walked towards the glass box. When he reached the glass box, he cautiously looked around it to see an opening, yet found nothing. "Did you feel that?" Suddenly Knight questioned the others. Michael looked over his shoulder to see everyone looking confused. Visit. For a better user experience, I can't feel any energy. Even Knight wasn't spared from the phenomenon. Finally Michael turned around and sensed no power coming from them, none at all. At that point in time, everyone became powerless. The void spell. Michael immediately recognized the phenomenon as the work of a void spell. "You know about this, don't you?" Instead of panicking, Knight remained calm. Michael nodded, but after nodding he turned around to look at the shield. "I have a feeling we should read that parchment," Michael said. "Cataly, open that box." Amaryl frowned as Cataly waved her hand. I can't." Cataly shook her head. After seeing Cataly shaking her head, Amaryl rushed at the glass box and tried to lift it, except she couldn't even move the glass box an inch. "Let me try." Michael placed his palm on the glass box. Boom. Shockingly, Michi punched the glass box. Just hearing the sound of his fist hitting the glass box pained Amaryl's hand. But he beat again and again as the glass box started to crack. "Shit, you're bleeding." Amaryl noticed the blood on his palm but did not slow down. His persistence surprised Knight, and he watched Ghost break the glass box with his hands without giving a damn about the blood. Clang. Finally, after withstanding hundreds of punches, the glass box shattered, and so did Michael's knuckles. Still, Michael ignored the pain, reaching out for the shield with his broken hands. Ding. Congratulations to the host for acquiring a legendary class item, the Ghost Shield. The host's darkness manipulation has increased to 25%. As soon as Michael grabbed the shield, he heard the system notifications in his mind. Does the host wish to convert life energy into arch energy? The conversion will cost the host 50,000 badass points. After conversion, the host will be able to use cultivation power for a week. About time system. The latest _episodes are on website. Amaryl and everyone in the room were stunned when they saw Michael turn around with a grin on his face. Of course, no one with broken arms would grin except him. "You're bleeding. Wait here." Amaryl quickly ran outside the hall to access her space ring. Meanwhile, Michael's blood dripped to the ground droplet by droplet through his broken knuckles. Knight could even see some broken bones sticking out of his fist. Still, Michael grasped the shield tightly. "I didn't think this room had a void array." Knight creased his brows after hearing Michael's calm words. "You're familiar with the void effect?" asked Knight. Michael nodded and signaled Ken to grab the parchment upon the red cloth. "Then tell me, Ghost?" Knight began to circle Michael, and every step Knight took had the king's grace. "Have you ever met the cannibals?" Seeing the frown on Michael's face, Knight rephrased his question. "Have you ever met skinless ugly-as-fuck creatures?" "Met them, killed them, burnt them," Michael said indifferently. "They use these arrays to make the atmosphere void of any energies." "Not only them," Michael interjected. "Knight, from where I come from, there is a dormant hydra. An entire continent has been void of any energy because of that hydra. And I have a feeling you know who might be the boss of that hydra." Knight stopped circling as Amaryl entered the room again with a blood-red potion in her hand. "Here, gulp this down. It won't work." Michael and Knight said the same thing at the same time. "What?" Since Amaryl wasn't very familiar with void arrays and their effects, she looked at Michael and Knight, creasing her brows. "My lord." Ken took a step forward and handed over the parchment to Michael, but he couldn't lift his hand to take the parchment. "Conversion has been completed. Does the host wish to nullify the void array's effects on yourself? It would cost the host 30,000 badass points." Yes. Following his acceptance, Michael felt an acute pain all over his pain. However, the pain soon began to lessen as Michael felt his power returning to him. Michael cracked his neck and shoulder as Knight noticed his bloody fist slowly healing back to its previous state. "Visits? For the best no_vel_ed_g experience, you're immune?" Knight was surprised. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 10,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 15,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 12,000 badass points. Michael immediately earned back his 30,000 badass points by impressing everyone in the hall. Ken had read about the legendary ghost, the Otherworlder, and his power, but only now had he seen it with his eyes. He broke the void array like it was nothing. The Hydra in my world and the one that appeared in Regis' dream might be the same. A general of the Queen. As soon as Knight heard Michael's last words, his heart skipped a beat. The others' faces turned pale in an instant. So you're all familiar with the Queen? Michael's gaze swept across the room as Knight sighed. More than we want to. What's in that parchment? Knight looked at the parchment in Ken's hands. Now that APD had healed Michael's hands, he took the parchment from Ken's hand. Ghost, if you're reading this, it means you have arrived at Dawn's universe. So do yourself a favor by helping them. We need allies to fight the enemies we will face in the future. So make them yourself an ally to Dawn and Knight. And Michael read what was written on the parchment in his mind. Could it be Michael? Did I write myself a letter? Makes sense. After reading the letter, Michael's mood improved. It's slowly becoming apparent to Michael that his future self was an OP god. Michael felt glad that he was on the right track to becoming stronger. If he hadn't taken the risk of coming to meet Sabrina, he wouldn't have traveled across universes, meeting new people and getting more information about him and his enemies. Knight. Before Knight could get his answer from Michael, Cataly interjected, "We better go see this." Cataly's voice was grave. Knight slowly turned his gaze towards Cataly. "It's important." Cataly frowned, and seeing her grave reaction, Knight raised his brows. "Come with us," Knight said to Michael. Instead of following him behind, Michael wanted to inspect his new shield and the room for a few more moments. However, he was teleported away from the room by Cataly in a blink of an eye. After being teleported by Cataly, Michael's vision turned blurry. The effect lasted a few seconds until his vision finally cleared. As soon as he could see everything clearly, he noticed an elf lying in a bed, all bloody and injured. It seemed to Michael that someone hacked and slashed the elf. There was no black armor covering the elf, so Michael could even see the cuts on his body and even a little bit of his insides. "Kotar!" Amaryl shouted as she dashed at the elf. "Visit." For a better user experience, Michael patiently looked around the infirmary to see countless comfy beds in neat lines and several men and women running around the hall carrying trays. Probably with healing potions and medications. Amaryl immediately forced a healing potion down Kotar's throat, but unlike she expected, the potion did not heal him. "We are losing him, Lady Amaryl." He was cut by the corroded blade. Knight came beside Kotar and stared at the cuts on his body. "No healing potion can save him. Keep giving him life energy using the apex and put him with the others." Although Knight was burning in anger, he did not show it in his voice. Only Michael and Cataly noticed the anger in his eyes. "What's this?" Knight raised his paw and pulled something out of Kotar's pocket. "General Knight." After sensing the air around the get chillier, Ken reluctantly called Knight. "They have Yuki." Michael had no idea who Yuki was or what she was to them. However, by looking at their shocked reactions, Michael understood she was someone important to Everlight. "What?" Amaryl shouted. "The cannibals have Yuki." Amaryl's rosy face instantly lost its color and became pale. She shivered as her eyes watered. "No, no, no, we have to save her, we must." Amaryl's tears gushed out of her eyes. She couldn't even imagine what the cannibals would do to Yuki if they didn't save her. "They want Dawn to come to the withered forest." Alone, a dark purple flame engulfed the bloody piece of paper in Knight's hands as silence occupied the hall until Michael decided to follow the rods of his future self. "Step aside." Michael gently pushed aside Amaryl and stepped towards Kotar. The elf on the bed lost so much blood. Hence, Kotar looked pale, yet when Michael looked closer, he saw dark veins spreading out from the cuts. Kotar tried to say something, but every time he opened his mouth, only a white form escaped his mouth. "System scan his body." Michael paid 5,000 badass points to scan Kotar's body. "What are you doing?" Knight asked when he saw Michael place his hand on Kotar's chest. "Curing him." Michael did not take his hand off Kotar for a few moments. Can you cure him?" Amaryl finally broke the silence. Amaryl had seen many of her people enter a state of coma after being cut by the corroded blades. Although they were keeping them alive using Apex, there was no certainty they would wake up from their coma. In simple words, they were as good as dead without a cure. Instead of immediately answering Michael, He took out a piece of paper and a quill from his storage and began to write. If you can get me these things, I can cure him. Michael stunned everyone in the hall. Those who were running around the hall suddenly halted their steps in shock. Visit. For the best no_vil_ing experience at that moment, every pair of eyes was on Michael. My lord, Ken's hand shivered as he took the list from Michael. Ken? Knight's words quickly snapped Ken out of his stunned state. The old man quickly eyed the list for a few moments. We can get everything in the list from our gardens, but... No buts, go get him those. Cataly threw a glance at Michael before vanishing into thin air along with Uncle Ken, leaving Amaryl and Knight with Michael. This will keep him from dying until I cure him. Michael took out a healing potion from his system storage. The one Amaryl gave Kotur was a crimson-red potion, while the potion in Michael's hand was sparkling blue. This is a healing potion from my world, Michael said, slowly pouring the potion into Kotur's mouth. Since Knight trusted Ghost, he let Ghost give the potion to Kotur. Just a few seconds after Michael emptied the potion into Kotur's mouth, the white form finally stopped coming out of Kotur's mouth. In addition, Amaryl noticed Kotur's breathing had turned normal. Kotur, can you hear me? It's Amaryl. Squeeze my hand if you can hear me. Amaryl sat beside Kotur on the bed and brushed his head gently. She was elated when Kotur squeezed her hand and Knight noticed it. You really think you can cure him? Knight asked without showing any hope in his eyes or tone. However, deep down Knight wanted some hope to revive all his men. Although Don had a plan to fight the corroded blades, it was extremely risky, and Knight hated putting Don's life at risk more than anything. I don't think. I know. Cure them and you can consider Everlight your allies, including Don and me. It's a deal then. Michael extended his arm as Knight closed his eyes for a moment. In a blink of an eye, Michael saw the lion turning into a dashing golden-haired youngster wearing black armor similar to Don's. It was Knight's human form. Knight nodded and gave Michael a firm handshake. My lord. A few minutes later, Cataly and Ken appeared in the room, and Ken carried a bucket filled with colorful herbs and various weird-shaped ingredients in it. After taking a glance at the contents of the bucket, Knight frowned. These are low-grade herbs and ingredients. You guys should step back. It's gonna get hotter in here, Michael smirked, raising his hand. Then, under their curious gazes, Michael conjured his alchemy flames. You are an alchemist? Cataly asked out loud the question that emerged in everyone's minds. The best, visit. For a better user experience. Everyone stepped back from Michael as he told them. Michael's emerald green fire lit the hall dimly. Under everyone's curious gazes, Michael kept the fire dancing above one hand while throwing the herbs into the fire using the other. The herbs and ingredients crackled in the fire and let out their essence. Knight noticed glistening essence beads emerging from the fire in a few blink of an eye. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 10,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 13,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 10,000 badass points. How is he doing this? Amaryl questioned Cataly. She had never seen an alchemist extract essence from the herbs without a cauldron. They were pretty shocked, including Knight. Do you think his cure will work? Cataly whispered to Amaryl. We should have hope, Cataly. Amaryl liked to have hope in her heart. If his cure worked, they could wake all the soldiers in the hall next to them. Until now, 120 people have been in a coma because of the corroded blades. If it weren't for Don, all of them would have died. Michael ignored all the whispers and stares at him and continued to brew the cure. It took him almost 5 minutes to merge all the essence beads and complete the pale jade color potion. After Michael completed the potion, the vial radiated a dim emerald green light and a sweet fragrance. This will do it. Let me do it. Before Michael could pour the potion onto Kotuk's mouth, Amaryl stepped forward. Go ahead. Michael handed the potion over to Amaryl, put out his alchemy flames and leaned on the pillar beside him. After taking the potion, Amaryl took a deep breath. Then, she sat near Kotuk's head and gently lifted his head before slowly pouring the green liquid into his mouth. On the other hand, Knight did not take his gaze off of Kotuk. Knight didn't even blink. It was too nerve-wracking. Little by little, the potion ran down Kotuk's throat. Give it a second, Michael said to Cataly, who was staring at Michael. And also, you should step away from him. Michael turned his gaze from Cataly to Amaryl. Quick, the latest _sodies are on website. You whack. Kotuk suddenly threw up dark blood onto the floor. Fortunately, Amaryl stepped back from him as Michael told her. Otherwise, she would have been drenched in the dark blood vomited by Kotuk. Kotuk kept throwing up dark blood for a few minutes before he finally stopped puking blood. After Kotuk finished throwing up, Knight noticed the cuts on his body slowly closing up. Kotuk. Amaryl hugged Kotuk without waiting for a second. She embraced him tightly and patted him on the back. Step aside, Amaryl. However, Knight was not in the mood to wait. He just pulled back Amaryl and grabbed Kotuk by his shoulders. What happened? Plop. Knight. Michael saw Knight slapping Kotuk to make him snap out of shock. Amaryl shouted at Knight, but the latter did not mind Amaryl. General Knight. Knight's slap brought Kotuk back from his shocked state. Tell us what happened. Kotuk didn't move his gaze away from Knight. Hence, he didn't notice Michael, who just watched the scene unfolding, leaning on the pillar with his hands folded. We were ambushed, General Knight. The cannibals ambushed us on our way to Valencia. General Knight. Just as Katok remembered something important, he shouted, They got Yuki. No shit. Knight pushed him back and punched the table beside him as the table crumbled into pieces. Cataly, war room. Cataly nodded before waving her hands. Michael knew what was coming, so he just closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them back, he was standing in a room brightly lit with chandeliers. They stood around an oak table with several maps. Visit. For the best understanding experience, how did they know about our route? Ken asked Cater, who had no time to process what just happened to him or how he survived. I don't know, my lord. They just jumped our carriage and took Yuki. I tried my best. Please forgive me for failing you, General Knight. Katrick dropped to his knees before Knight. You did nothing wrong. Get up. Knight pulled him up by his shoulder and looked at everyone in the room, including Michael. First things first, Ghost, can we recreate the option you made us after you leave? Yeah, I can write down the formula and make it easier for them. You should have no problem mass-producing them. Knight nodded as Cataly heaved a sigh of relief. While Knight was thinking about his next move, Michael took out the shield from the system storage and admired the beauty and the craftsmanship. What kind of metal is this? Michael mumbled under his breath, looking around the shield. This round shield was made from a sturdy but lightweight metal. It could easily offer heavy-duty protection, especially against crushing attacks and arrows and bolts. The shield's edges were enhanced with thick metal plating and decorated with a scaly texture. In addition, the one who forged the shield painted the edge with crimson-red paint to match the skull engraved in the center. With the first look, the shield seemed to have yet to see its first battle. There was not a single scratch on the surface. But Michael had difficulty believing this shield had never seen action. One thing was sure, Michael would soon test the shield in action. But although the shield would provide a great defense in a battle, carrying it around would ultimately restrict his swordplay. That's where Draven's retractable shield device comes into the picture. I need to place a summoning rune on it. Michael quickly recalled how Eve summoned her hammer after throwing it at her foes. It would be troublesome if Michael had to find the shield after he threw it at his foes. Therefore, Michael planned to make Eladir place a summoning rune on the shield. Of course, to do that, he had to first leave Dawn's universe. Unfortunately, it was not like Michael had a choice. Rather, it was up to the Shadow Realm. Until it decides to take him back, he was stuck in this universe. What are we still doing here? Let's send our men to rescue Yuki. We know where she is. Amaryl raised her concern and tried to rush Knight. It's not that easy. First, we don't know for sure that's where they are keeping Yuki. Second, it's obviously a trap to capture Dawn. The Withered Forest is a void zone. Not even Dawn can use his powers there. Knight's brows arched up as he explained. They expect Dawn to come alone, and I won't let him go alone. He has enough problems as it is. We will figure this out on our own. Brother Knight is right. We can't let Big Brother walk into a trap. If he tells him about Yuki, he will go there. Although I believe the cannibals have no chance against Big Brother, it's not rational to walk into a trap knowing it's a trap. Ken nodded after hearing Cataly. General Knight. Ken called Knight. Only our men knew about the carriage and Yuki. So how did the cannibals manage to ambush it? Could it be just a coincidence? Ken couldn't help asking the obvious question. After Ken's question, the hall fell into silence. Visit. For a better user experience, isn't it obvious? Michael finally broke the silence and didn't even take his gaze away from his new shield. What is? Amaryl asked Michael. You have a spy among your men. Michael expected some kind of rebuke from one of them, especially from Amaryl, who seemed to love her people a little too much. However, they surprised Michael by staying silent. Michael had no idea how much they went through and suffered to get to this position. They were not naive people, not even Amaryl as Michael thought. Although everyone was thinking about the same deep down, hearing it out loud from Michael churned terrible feelings in their guts. We are running out of time. The note mentioned the cannibals would kill Yuki if they didn't see Dawn in 2 hours. Knight's voice stunned Amaryl. Then we all go swords blazing and kill every single piece of scum. I will reduce them to the ground if I have to. Calm down, Amaryl. Even if we send thousands of our elites, they would be sitting ducks once they entered the withered forests. General Knight is correct, Lady Amaryl. The withered forest is their domain. They hold absolute power there. Then what do you suggest? Let them eat Yuki while we stand here doing nothing? Do you think Don would sit still if he knew Yuki was in danger? Hearing their conversation, Michael's respect for these people reached a new height because they knew he was immune to the void array, yet none of them asked him to risk his life. Instead, they were trying to figure out a solution on their own. Dawn saved my life. So let me return the favor. Michael's calm words swept across the hall, immediately drawing their attention. Don't even think about it. You're our guest. We will not ask you to risk your life for us. Cataly appeared before Michael in an instant, shaking her head frantically. You are not asking me. It's my choice. Just show me where they are. Michael stepped towards the table, facing Knight. Unlike the others, Knight could see the confidence and sensed the power radiating from Michael. The magical fluctuations around Ghost were crazy. Thus, Knight was confident Ghost could rescue Yuki and survive in the withered forest. Michael couldn't wait to get drenched in badass points and show what he was capable of to the people of Everlight. Besides, he might even get a chance to test his new shield. Cataly, go with him and show us everything happens. Michael almost wanted to kiss Knight. If they could see him in action, that would make the system rain badass points which he could use to get stronger before reaching the Shadow Realm. Will she be in danger? Asked Michael. No. They can't hurt me and I can't hurt them. But he'll be able to shadow you and let Knight see what I see, Cataly explained to Dawn as she prepared to teleport him to the withered forest. Visit. For a better user experience. Can you teleport near this withered forest? Knight nodded at Michael. Then I have some time to kill. Yet again Michael took out a piece of paper and scribbled something before handing the list over to Ken. If you don't mind, get me these please. Ken looked at the list of items and frowned. He couldn't guess why he was asking for those items. Still, he nodded and teleported to his workshop along with Cataly. Everyone was confused. Time is of the essence, Kotur mumbled. You worry about finding the rat. He'll bring back Yuki. Michael stretched his arms and cracked his neck. What are you going to do? Amaryl took a deep breath and asked Michael. She could see there was no stopping him. Since Knight didn't try to stop Michael, she could only pray for his safe return. My lord, at that time, Ken and Cataly returned to the room carrying a few metal parts, including a black metal bracelet. Cool. Under their curious gazes, Michael took the metal bracelet, attached some tiny nuts and bolts, and merged them with the bracelet by heating up the metal bracelet using his alchemy flames. Then, Michael proceeded to place a space ring inside a hole created by the flame. Knight saw the shield on the table disappear into the ring. This should do it. Michael wore the bracelet around his left wrist so that he could use the hidden blade in his right wrist without any problem. What did you build, my lord? Ken curiously asked Michael. Nothing complex. Just a retractable shield. Michael clenched his left fist as he said. In a blink of an eye, the black shield materialized in his arm. By using the space ring, Michael cut the retracting time by half. It was more efficient than Draven's device. But of course Etheria had no space rings. Hence they couldn't have built this device. Shall we go? Michael asked Cataly as she looked at everyone for their confirmation. Be safe. If something goes wrong, teleport back to Everlight, Knight warned both of them. I am really ashamed we are putting your life at risk. Amaryl looked sad, but Michael calmed her mind with a gentle smile and a pat on her shoulder. Visits. For a better user experience, believe me, I faced worse. Michael's words filled with confidence gave some strength to Amaryl. Again and again the people of Everlight surprised Michael. They were so kind and pure-hearted. If it was his world, people would have jumped the gun to put his life in danger instead of risking theirs. However, the Everlight people really cared for Michael, whom they had just met. After Michael tested the shield device, he felt ready to hunt some skinless creatures. Now that the system had come online, he could use the teleportation scrolls. Hence, even if the skinless creatures proved troublesome, he could just activate the scrolls and escape. Of course, that would be the opposite of being a badass. Not that Michael wanted to run, but surviving to fight another was never a bad idea. We will not forget what you're doing for us, Ghost. Knight walked around the table and came before Michael. Knight clasped Michael's forearm, shaking it firmly. Don't miss the feast, Knight smiled. Not planning to, Michael nodded as Ken waved his hand. The very next moment, Michael saw a large mirror appearing in the room and saw the room in the mirror. Now we see everything Cataly sees. I am ready, Cataly said, looking at Michael as he adjusted the gadgets around his wrists. His wrists had so many devices now, including APD Mark III grappling hook, hidden blades, and the retractable shield. As soon as he returned to the dark forest, he planned to optimize everything. It was time he upgraded the inventor skill to star level 5. Let's go, Michael nodded as everyone took deep breaths and only exhaled after Cataly and Michael vanished into thin air. The withered forest was large, dark, and primal. However, every single tree in the forest looked burnt and sick without a single leaf. Hence the name Withered Forest. Long ago, its canopy was ruled by hickory, beech, and walnut, which provided just enough openings for light to pass down for a mishmash of plants to take advantage of the stony grounds below. At that moment, when the forest was filled with nothing but eerie silence, Cataly and Michael appeared at the border. "We are here," Cataly whispered to Michael, who looked around the place without uttering a word. The forest was already spooky with dead trees and deadly silence. Yet, Mother Nature added an extra layer of spookiness by enveloping the forest with a thick mist and dark clouds above the forest in the sky. Michael couldn't even see what's in front of him in 5 meters due to the thick mist. In fact, he could barely see the trees in the forest. "What's the plan?" asked Cataly. "Get a good look at our targets." Michael raised his hand. Click. Cataly saw a grappling hook fired from his wrist to the tree branch above them. After the grappling hook coiled around the branch, Michael soared through the air and landed on the branch. Visit. For a better user experience, Michael saw several heat signatures on the ground via his thermal vision. The forest, the thermal vision, and standing atop a branch reminded him of the Earth and Predator movie. "Why are you smiling?" Cataly whispered after seeing the gentle smile on his face. "Just some nostalgia." Michael jumped from one branch to another without making a sound. The only sound they heard was twigs cracking under the footsteps of the skinless creatures. "Look," Michael pointed at the skinless creatures patrolling the forest, holding a white spear. When Michael looked closer, he realized the spear was made of human femurs. The skinless creature was oblivious to the fact he was being watched from above. So instead, the creature patrolled the borders like a good soldier. Michael could easily kill the creature, but he jumped from branch to branch, reckoning the place. The more he jumped around, the more he saw the layout of their camp. In addition, Michael also scanned the place with his environmental scanning. 60 cannibals, Michael told Cataly, looking at the skinless creatures walking around the forest. His gaze swept across the area and found the tent erupted in the center of their camp. A large group of cannibals gathered around a large cauldron, making weird sounds. When Michael looked at what was in the pot, he was nauseated. The cannibals were making some gooey red soup as Michael noticed tiny skulls and bones floating on the surface. "They are making human porridge," Cataly growled as Michael shushed her. "Shoo." He then turned his gaze away from the boiling pot to the tent in the center. With the help of his thermal vision, he could see a figure tied to a chair inside the tent. "There is someone in the tent. Looks human, a girl maybe," Michael whispered to Cataly. "It must be Yuki," Cataly said. "Brother Knight, we might have located Yuki," Cataly whispered to Knight. At the same time, Michael looked at the 2 other figures inside the tent with the hostage. While Cataly was talking to Knight, Michael quickly took a spider from the system storage, dropping it down. He could try to poison the soup by flying above them and dropping the poison he brewed in the Shadow Realm into the pot. However, it would take some time, and there was a possibility the poison wouldn't work on these creatures. Besides, they were not powerful. The most powerful was at the core strengthening stage level 3. Instead of poisoning, Michael chose the most direct route. That option would get him the most amount of badass points. "What's next?" Cataly asked. "The latest _AP_SODIes are on _the website. Watch and learn, kid." With a smirk, Michael flew to the border again and landed on a tree branch above the first skinless creature they saw. The creature was looking around, and the moment it turned around, Michael swiftly landed behind the creature. "Nighty-night, Pulch." Cataly saw a blade retracting from his wrist through the creature's throat. The creature frantically squirmed, but Michael's grab around its neck soon stopped its movements. Since leaving the body might attract the other creatures, Michael took off from the ground with the dead creature in his hand. Michael put the body on the branch before jumping to another branch. This time there were 2 creatures on the ground. Cataly thought Ghost would wait for the creatures to separate. But instead of waiting for them to part ways, Michael landed right between them. Not only the creatures but also Cataly was stunned. "Pulch. Pulch. Wow! Cataly barely blacked when she saw the two swords in Ghost's hands sticking through the creatures' heads. He killed them so fast without making a sound. Even Aurora's elites didn't have the finesse and quickness. Like before, Michael flew atop the branch and put the dead bodies before flying to another. It took Michael a few minutes to silently kill all the patrolling creatures. After killing them, Michael reached the center, where he saw the creatures growling and wailing. We can't alert them. Otherwise they might kill Yuki. Not if we kill them first, Michael smirked before leaping towards the tree near the tent. Still, to this moment, the cannibals were unaware of Michael's presence. They had arrays and traps placed for Dawn and anyone with battle energy. Unfortunately for them, Michael had no battle energy running in his veins but arch energy. Hence, none of the arrays were triggered by Michael. While they were excitedly waiting for the human porridge, Michael stalked them from above and picked them up one by one. Cataly was curious and afraid at the same time. She followed him behind, waiting for his next move. Unfortunately, the tent was surrounded by cannibals. Therefore, there was no way to get inside without being seen by the cannibals. Are you curious to see what I am gonna do next? Michael whispered to Cataly with a smile. Visit? For a better user experience, she nodded. Then you have to wait a bit more. What do you mean a little more? Cataly whispered back but received no response from Michael. Instead, Michael controlled the spiders to get inside the tent. It's time to crash the party. Michael turned his gaze toward the skinless creatures in the center. But before jumping down, Michael stretched his arms and unsheathed his sword. Since he wanted to test the shield, Michael only unsheathed one sword, not two. Afterward, Michael wasted no time but leaped down just a few inches away from the large pot with boiling human porridge. Grr! The creatures were startled by Michael's sudden appearance. However, they did not even have time to react as Michael kicked the pot toward them. Plop! The boiling porridge splashed on their bodies, making them scream in agony. Their screams echoed through the gloomy withered forest. He alerted them. Cataly was shocked. Ring of fire. Michael immediately cast the spell as a ring of fire shot out of him and burnt everything in the 5-meter radius. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a low-level queen worshipper. The reward is 10,000 experience points and 1,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a low-level queen worshipper. The reward is 10,000 experience points and 1,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a low-level queen worshipper. The reward is 10,000 experience points and 1,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 15,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 12,000 badass points. Michael ignored all the notifications sounding in his mind and focused on the battle before him. The skinless creatures that remained closer to Michael stood no chance against the waves of hot red flames shooting out of Michael. Lightning dash. Michael did not remain still, thinking the fire would burn them all. Instead, he dashed at the creatures without giving them time to put up their defense. The creatures ran around frantically, screaming in pain, while many rolled on the ground to put out the fire on them. The smell of burning flesh mixed with the stench natural to the withered forest produced a nauseating smell. However, it couldn't stop Michael from cleaving the heads of the creatures with lightning-quick movement. Cataly saw only a blur among the skinless creatures, followed by a golden light trail. She heard the vague crackling of lightning every time she saw a head flying into the air. The creatures were simply too slow to even see Michael, let alone stop him. He just harvested heads like they were weeds. Cataly had a difficult time following his movements. While Michael was killing the skinless creatures, she tried to enter the tent but was stopped by an invisible force field. Whirr! Suddenly, the skinless creatures roared towards the sky as they began to grow in size. The next moment, they shocked everyone in Everlight by eating their fallen comrades. Then they started to eat the dead ones, feasted on their entrails and sucked the blood from the neck. The gory sight even stunned Michael. After they began to eat their fallen comrades, Michael noticed their cultivation stage go from the core strengthening stage level 1 to level 5. Fortunately, the most powerful one among the creatures was already killed by Michael. Visit. For a better user experience, even though they were powering up, they posed no threat to Michael. He treated the situation like badass points harvesting simulation. After they finished eating the others, Michael clenched his fist as the shield materialized over his forearm. Let's dance. Michael did not cast the lightning dash but remained firm, waiting for the creatures to attack him. Cataly, go inside the tent and see if Yuki is there. Cataly heard Amaril's voice in her head. I can't. The tent is protected by an array, don't rush. She will come out, Michael's words surprised Cataly, tell Amaryl. I will come up with Yuki, Michael said, raising his hand towards a creature dashing at him. Before the creature could get to him, the bolt of lightning shot out from Michael's hand, piercing through its head. Meanwhile, back on Everlight, Knight monitored each and every move of Ghost through Cataly's eyes. He is holding back. What? Amaryl was shocked by Knight's words. As far as she could see, Ghost massacred the cannibals without breaking a sweat. That was shocking enough already, yet Knight told her that he was holding back. Who is he, General Knight? Kotar asked, since he did not know anything about their new guest. Friend of His Majesty? Kotar couldn't help asking after seeing how they both dress in all black. Why isn't he rescuing Yuki? Don't rush. She will come out. Michael's words surprised Cataly. As soon as Amaryl asked Knight, she heard Ghost's calm voice. Can he hear us? Knight shook his head, frowning. It seems like he has some tricks up his sleeves. Knight, who forged himself in hundreds of battles, obviously knew Michael was holding back when he saw the battle in the mirror. It was pretty obvious to Knight. Still, the way he killed them, the finesse and the deadliness in each move reminded Knight of Dawn. However, the question in Knight's mind was why he was holding back and when he planned to rescue Yuki. Back on the battlefield, a skinless creature dashed at Michael, roaring in utter fury. It did not even have a weapon in its hand but just slashed at Michael, expecting to cut him in halves. Ding. Michael was waiting for the skinless creature to attack him, and when it did, he raised his shield, blocking its sharp claws. Despite the lightness of the shield, it didn't break when it blocked the blow. Not that Michael expected it to break. After all, it's a legendary item. Visit. For a better user experience, the creature went on a berserker as it kept banging the shield, trying to break it. However, the creature's punches did not even put a dent in the shield. Now my turn. The next time when the creature threw a punch, Michael deflected it with his shield, creating an opening. Then bomb. Michael hit the creature right in the jaw with his other hand. The creature was stunned as the others were dashing at him. Before the stunned creature could regain its senses, Michael sent his hidden blade through its eyes. Boom, boom, boom. At that time, Michael's instincts kicked in as he felt the upcoming danger. Look out! Cataly shouted as Michael swiftly leaped into the air. While in the air, he saw a boulder flying past where he was standing. The creature finally began to cast spells, but they never uttered a word. He was still in the air when a wave of wind threw him off balance. The wind wave forced him to the ground. Are you okay? Cataly quickly came to his side and asked with visible concern in her eyes. The fun is just getting started. The rest of the creatures quickly surrounded Michael and began to move their hands in various shapes and forms as they were drawing in the air. Why don't we take Yuki and teleport away? She will come out, Michael calmly said, regardless of the 30 or so skinless creatures casting spells around him. You creatures did not learn a thing. Michael put his shield into his space ring and cracked his neck. On the other hand, the creatures created boulders, balls of fire, and mini tornadoes, just seconds away from sending everything toward Michael. Elemental manipulation. Michael had no doubts. They were manipulating the elements around him just like he could manipulate darkness and wind. But, of course, they seemed to have more control over the elements than Michael. Still, they made a mistake by standing within a 5-meter radius from him. Ring of Fire. The fire engulfed everything within a 5-meter radius and raged on while pulsating waves of flames around him. Everything the creatures created using elemental manipulation vanished or fell on their own heads. Girarchich. Erg. Girarolo. The creatures shrieked, trying to put out the fire. Some intelligent creatures attempted to manipulate the fire around them, only to fail. Michael's flames were powered up by the dark flames, and no one except Michael could control the dark flames. Visit. For the best no_vel_underscored_G experience. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage level 5. Finally, after Michael killed all the skinless creatures around him by burning them alive, 2 creatures walked out of the tent, holding a young girl hostage. The young girl was still in her armor, but the creature had a rusted blade enveloped by a red mist against her throat. The red-haired girl gawked at the burning forest as the creatures roared at Michael. The previously gloomy, dark, silent forest was littered with dead bodies and engulfed by flames. Yuki, Cataly exclaimed. I don't speak your language, Michael said, folding his arm. Where is His Majesty? Yuki stuttered. Oh, you know their language? Michael tilted his head. Who are you? Yuki asked, ignoring his question. She had a corroded blade against her throat. Thus, she didn't feel like explaining things to a total stranger. You too. Cataly saw Michael turning his gaze towards the two creatures instead of talking to Yuki. Growl if you understand me, growling. The two of them let out an angry growl, indicating they could understand him. They'll give you a choice. Let her go and I won't kill you. Michael looked at the dead bodies lying on the ground for a moment before looking at them again. Do anything else you will join them, Ghost? Cataly came to his side. What are you doing? They would kill her. No they won't. Michael didn't whisper but said loud enough for everyone to hear her. You are not going to kill her. So save us some time by dropping your blades. Don't struggle. It'll only make your death more painful. Jurr. They roared instead of letting her go. I will count to 3. If you didn't let her go by then I'd kill you. Michael stretched his arms and began to count. 1. Visit. For the best no understanding experience 2. The skinless creatures looked at each other, but before they could hear another word from Michael's mouth, their heads exploded. Time's up. What just happened? Emerald stood there with her eyes wide open. She was bewildered. One moment Ghost was talking to the cannibals and the next moment, their heads exploded. Except for Knight, no one had clearly seen what just happened. In Knight's mind he replayed the scene. After he counted 2, he raised his hands and fired 2 lightning bolts which went straight through the cannibals' heads. That was the glimpse of his full power. If he had fought without holding back, Amaryl and Kotar wouldn't have seen him. He wanted us to see him, Knight mumbled under his breath. Yuki, Amaryl shouted when she saw Yuki's bloody face. Her face was covered in the cannibal's blood. Wait, Knight saw Ghost stopping Cataly from getting close to Yuki. Tell Knight to meet us in a secured room. Why? Cataly questioned Michael. Just do it. Cataly, do what he says. Knight ordered Cataly. Kotar, go check on Arwen. Knight dismissed Kotar and when he was about to take a step, Knight stopped him. Keep your mouth shut about everything. Yes, General Knight. Kotar bowed before leaving the room. Afterward, Knight took Amaryl with him to one of the secret rooms in the castle. Meanwhile back in the withered forest, Michael approached Yuki. She was shivering as Michael stomped the ground, making the corroded blade fly into his hand. I'll take this. The corroded blade disappeared into his system storage as Michael looked at Cataly. We can go now. Cataly finally heaved a sigh of relief. Cataly, come to room number 18. Cataly heard Knight's voice and then teleported Ghost and Yuki to room 18. In a second, Michael appeared in a brightly lit oval-shaped room in Everlight Castle. Knight and Amaryl were already waiting for them. Yuki. Amaryl tried to dash towards Yuki when he saw her but Knight grabbed her by the shoulder. Visit. For the best no understanding experience wait. Knight shook his head, telling her not to take another step toward Yuki. Amaryl was confused but listened to Knight without uttering another word. What? When Amaryl turned her head, she saw the dark lines on Knight's forehead. Knight? She asked, confused by Knight's behavior. Lady Amaryl. Who is he? What's happening here? Yuki stuttered as tears gushed out of her eyes. Even Cataly had no idea what was going on here. Instead of explaining, Michael conjured his alchemy flames. Under their curious gazes, Michael threw in some herbs and ingredients he bought from the system into the alchemy fire. Yuki tried to walk toward Amaryl but an invisible force forced her to stay still. She couldn't move a muscle. Are you going to tell what's happening or not? Amaryl asked. Wait, Amaryl. Everything will make sense in a few minutes, Michael answered as he continued to refine the ingredients. Even a few minutes felt so long to Amaryl. Finally, she saw a red pill emerge from his emerald green fire. Take this. Michael's fire disappeared as he reached out the pill to Yuki. However, the girl frantically shook her head. No. Lady Amaryl. General Knight, what is this? She shouted. Swallow it, Yuki. After sensing the seriousness in Knight's voice, Amaryl chose not to question him further until he explains everything to her. But one thing for sure, there was definitely something wrong with Yuki Zero. Otherwise, Knight wouldn't have asked Yuki to consume the unknown pill concocted by Ghost. It's not gonna kill you, Yuki. On contrary, it will heal you. Michael stepped toward Yuki as she tried to walk away from him but she simply couldn't. Michael grabbed Yuki's face and squeezed her jaws, opening her mouth forcefully. Newell. Amaryl and Cataly were stunned by the change in Yuki's voice. It was an animalistic roar that shook the entire room. She squirmed and screamed against the invisible force as Knight frowned. Even a powerful being like him felt difficulty holding her down. Yuki, Amaryl mumbled, looking at Yuki's eyes flicker in red. While Yuki was trying to release herself from Knight, Michael forcefully put the pill into her mouth and shut it close. Her muffled cry barely escaped her mouth. Meanwhile, the pill slowly melted into her mouth. After a few seconds, Michael let her go of her face and so did Night. As soon as Michael let her go, she collapsed to her knees and screamed louder than any human possibly could. Visit. For the best no_underscore experience, her roar sent a chill running through Amaril's spine. Looking at Yuki scratching her own face, Amaril and Cataly stepped closer to Night in fear. What's happening to her, Night? Amaril asked Night. She was being controlled by the cannibals, Michael answered Amaril instead. Meanwhile, Yuki began to cough up blood as dark as midnight and squirmed like a fish out of the water on the ground. The cannibals expected Dawn to rescue her. That's why they turned her into a human bomb. Michael's words stunned them. What? Cataly raised her brows. Night? Amaril turned her gaze towards Night as he nodded. I suspected Yuki's been controlled by the cannibals for quite some time. Someone was leaking information only we know to the cannibals. Dawn and I suspected this. Then, how did he know? Amaril looked at Ghost. I told him. Night surprised Cataly and Amaril yet again. Night possessed an ability to talk to people telepathically. When Night shook Michael's hands, he told him everything about his suspicions to Michael. In return, Michael surprised Night by responding to him telepathically using the system. The words they exchanged were never heard by Cataly or Amaril. Night's suspicious, however, took a dark turn when Michael saw the skinless creatures making her drink something. Michael saw the whole thing thanks to the spider he sent inside the tent. As an alchemist, he immediately recognized the two potions they made Yuki drink. One was similar to his blood tonic but far less efficient and powerful. The other one temporarily made the creatures control Yuki. Unfortunately, the potion could only be used in Dawn's universe because the potion used battle energy. After screaming and squirming for a few more minutes, Yuki finally lost consciousness. Let her sleep for another 6 hours and she would be fine. Although if I were her, I'd stay away from training for a few weeks. Cataly waved her hand as she disappeared along with Yuki. We still have to find who gave her the mind-controlling potion, Night said. No need. Another calm voice resonated in the room as Michael turned his head to see a young woman dressed in all white entering the room. She was not as pretty as Amaril, but she had a certain charm that Amaril completely lacked. Her silky smooth skin and her toned body indicated hours of the battle of training. As she walked gracefully, her raven black hair fluttered in the wind. Above everything, her slightly pointed ears clearly showed Michael her half-elf race. Aurora? Amaril finally let out a relieved smile seeing Aurora. You must be Ghost. It's an honor to meet you at last, Aurora greeted Michael with a gentle friendly smile. Visit. For the best no_underscore experience, hey race your rat. With a flick of her wrist, she took out a severed head and threw it on the floor. Michael saw the head still has its eyes opened. He was right, the person didn't even know how he died. You must be the White Death the soldiers were talking about, Michael greeted her back with a smile. If she was in his universe, the entire world would be afraid of her. Because she was at the peak of fusion stage. He could literally sense the energy radiating from her. Unlike Night or Dawn, he was able to see her cultivation level. My foes call me that. You can call me Aurora, soon to be Aurora Dawn. Amaril giggled as Amaril wouldn't leave a chance to make Aurora blush no matter the situation. Thank you for rescuing Yuki, Ghost. Everlight is in your debt. Despite how powerful she was, she didn't act arrogant or cold like certain someone named Alicia or Selena. Enough of this. Amaril, take Ghost to quarters. I'll deal with everything else, Night ordered Amaril after a quick look at the head rolling on the floor. Since Michael was tired and wanted to upgrade some of his skills, Michael didn't disagree with Night. Yuki will be fine, right? Amaril asked Michael as he nodded. Thank you. Amaril grabbed Michael's hand and squeezed it. After leaving Night and Aurora behind, Michael followed Amaril to his quarters. On his way, he met several friendly and funny dwarves, charming elves, and curious humans. Regardless of their race, they all seemed so happy without any worry. So who ruled this place before Dawn? Michael asked. No one. No one for thousands of years. And this place wasn't as lively and happy as this before Dawn. He and Night built this place from the scratch. Michael was genuinely surprised. Everlight seemed several times larger than Bradford. Ruling Bradford with no other races was no joke, let alone ruling a place as large and populated as Everlight. His instincts were yet again right on point. When Michael met Dawn, he got a major kingly vibe from like Dawn was born to rule. He had such dominance. Besides, it seemed to Michael that Dawn surrounded himself with loyal and powerful people such as Amaril, Aurora, and Night. These people were no joke. If they traveled to his universe and regained their cultivation power, they could conquer Elon in an hour. Which brought Michael to his next question, how powerful their enemies would be. I wish you are from this universe. I could have set you up with some nice ladies here, Amaryl giggled, looking at the girls eyeing Ghost from the distance. You guys are taking the factum from another universe so chill, Michael couldn't help telling Amaryl. As a response to his words, Amaryl just chuckled. You are not the only otherworlder in Everlight Ghost, visit? For the best no_underscore_undershangy experience, Michael suddenly felt so curious about Everlight and quite honestly he was shocked by the place. Deep down, Michael wanted to spend some time with them, learning about them and getting stronger with their help. Michael's quarter in Everlight Castle was an ample hall with an attached lavatory. It had been ages since Michael took a shower, and it took him several minutes to figure out how they built the hot shower. Apparently, Don owns multiple hotel chains that were fitted with shower facilities. According to Amaryl, people had been waiting for months to book a room in their hotels. Of course, Michael had plans to expand his restaurant chains and hotels. Still, for now, he just enjoyed the shower before hitting the comfy bed located in front of the windows through which Michael saw the angelic sight of Everlight. Since it was the harvesting time, the paddy fields were blossoming with golden paddy waiting to be harvested by the farmers. So Michael just removed his armor and everything and lay in the bed wearing only loose sweatpants. It's time to upgrade the inventor skill. Michael decided to upgrade his inventor skill. Although Michael did not know when the Shadow Realm would pull him back, he treated staying in Everlight like a vacation. He still had no clear idea why he was in Everlight physically instead of being in his soul form. But as far as he could tell, his future self planned everything. Host. Michael Cultivation Level. Soul Refining Stage Level 6 Experience Points. 0/600, 000 Badass Points. 610,000 Skills and Spells. Wind Blast LVL 6 Responsive Shield LVL 8 Environment Scanning LVL 6 Ignitia LVL 8 Lightning Dash LVL 6 Energy Devour LVL 2 Soul Eater LVL 1 Death Range LVL 3 Eyes of Darkness Normal. Can sense the cultivation level of others' Eyes of Darkness Lucifer. Can sense the cultivation level of others, can see through illusions Cloud of Darkness Lucifer. Weak. Willed enemies will lose their courage completely and surrender. Death range will be 50% more powerful. If activated in darkness, the host's cultivation level will be boosted 4 levels up regardless of the stage barrier. Wordless Spellcaster Lucifer. In full Lucifer form, the host just has to think of the spell to cast it. Techniques. Swords of Destiny 98% Mastery Ring of Fire, 92% Mastery The latest studies are on website. Serpent Maga 97% Mastery Occupation. Core Disciple of Sunrise Sect The Guardian of Sunrise Sect Lord Lucifer of the Abyssal The Dark Lord King of Bradford Status. Healthy Goals. Control the World Rebuild the Order of Death Utility Function. Banker LVL 5. Ratio 1000 Gold Coins. 40 Badass Points. Runic Teleportation X-Ray Vision. Also integrated with Eyes of Darkness. Wealth. 15 million gold special trait. 5-star Alchemist 4-star Inventor Subordinates. Gaia Warrior Loyalty Level 100%. Raylene 5-star Chef, Loyalty Level 99%. Arya, Assassin Loyalty Level 86%. Heinberg Warrior, Loyalty Level 45%. Maxine Warrior, Loyalty Level 98%. Tiberius, Warrior, Loyalty Level 55%. Sadie, Loyalty Level 50%. Ricky, Loyalty Level 98%. The latest _AP_SODIes are on the website. Titus, Loyalty Level 60%. Optimus, Loyalty Level 60%. The Silent Reaper Crew Pirates, Loyalty Level 90%, Base of Operation. Sunrise Sect The Abyssal The Crypt Kingdom of Bradford Familiars. Nightmare, Forest Dragon, Vidora, Three-Headed Hydra, Elemental Manipulation. Wind, 10% Mastery, Fire, 10% Mastery. Lightning 15% Mastery, Darkness 25%, because of the Ghost Shield. Michael's darkness manipulation went from 20% to 25%. At a 5-star inventor level he could build various types of new gadgets and weapons. System, upgrade the inventor skill to the next level? The upgrade will cost the host 180,000 badass points. Does the host wish to upgrade? Yes, without a second thought, Michael confirmed. He was excited to build new gadgets and weapons as well as modify his Lucifer armor further. He already had several ideas to power up Big Bertha. The moment he got out of the Shadow Realm, he planned to visit Big Bertha and hunt down a few pirates in Big Bertha. After that, he couldn't wait to see the mortars in action. As usual, he felt acute pain in his brain while the system upgraded the skill to the next level. Then all of a sudden, Michael's mind was flooded with new knowledge, new techniques, and a whole lot of blueprints to build new weapons. Coupled with his knowledge of firearms on Earth, the star level enabled him to build a more powerful, efficient version of almost every weapon known to man. However, Michael felt reluctant to build modern firearms because they could be easily used against him. The thing he loved the most about his new world was its medieval fantasy vibe. No matter what, he wouldn't ruin the setting. Hence, Michael planned to build new fantasy kinds of weapons using his knowledge of firearms. Besides, most modern firearms wouldn't stand a chance against cultivators and their spells. The only way to defeat them would be to build firearms powered that take advantage of arch and celestial energy. After upgrading and going through his status window once more, Michael felt his eyes closing up. He felt so exhausted. Instead of fighting off the sleepiness, Michael closed the system window and closed his eyes. Only an hour passed when someone knocked on Michael's door. But Michael was deep in sleep as he didn't even hear someone knocking on the door. The one who knocked on the door finally stopped knocking after a few knocks and decided to open the door. "Ghost, you there?" Surprisingly, it was Amaryl who entered the room and saw Michael under the blanket sleeping peacefully. "Should I wake him up?" Michael questioned herself for a few moments until she ultimately decided to wake him up. "Hello," she gently tapped Michael's shoulder. "Visit?" For a better user experience, "Hey, wake up. The feast is ready." Her gentle tapping took a turn to a forced one. Still, Michael didn't even move. Suddenly she just grinned devilishly, licked her palm, and raised her hand to slap him on the shoulder. But when she was just a few inches away from him, he grabbed her hand. Her body became stiff as Michael let her hands go. "It's rude to hit a sleeping person, Amaryl." Michael slowly opened his eyes. "It's rude to sleep when everyone is waiting for you." She ruffled Michael's head as he slowly woke up. He almost forgot he wore no shirt to cover his body, but luckily the blanket covered his body instead. "Take a bath and come." Amaryl smiled and walked out of the room. After battles, blood, and planning, it felt good to just sit back and relax. There was no one gunning for his life in Don's universe. Michael even wished there was a way for him to come to Everlight often and spend some time without any worries. Everlight had such a magical effect on him. He heard his stomach growling. After quickly making his bed, Michael went inside the lavatory to take a quick bath. Although he took a bath earlier, he went to take another one because of the hint of blood smell coming off of him, courtesy of the skinless creatures he killed. When Michael entered the feast hall following a maid left by Amaryl, he was welcomed by the sweet aroma of voluptuous food and apple cinnamon candles. The feast hall was almost the size of the Great Hall of Mazeroth. It was sparkling with candlelight and the great chandeliers hanging from the silver ceiling. Numerous long oak tables were placed and laid with glittering golden plates and goblets. There were hundreds of foods on the table and Michael recognized only a few of them, such as lamb chops, steak, potatoes, meat pies, sandwiches, puddings, tarts, eclairs, and jams. At the top of the hall was another long table where the Dawn Knight and a few other new faces were sitting. While the maids and servants were fixing the meal, Michael could see the dwarves already chugging down mugs of ale like water. They didn't stop until Amaryl slapped some of them on the head. Despite her status, she was running around with trays asking everyone what they wanted and serving them delicious appetizers. He could smell the steam coming off of the meat. The aroma of the brown sugar was music to his soul. When Michael entered the room, almost every single one in the room turned their heads to the doorway and stared at him. For a few moments, the room was enveloped in awkward silence. The next moment, however, the entire hall erupted into cheers. They gave Michael a standing ovation as he walked toward Dawn and Night. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 5,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 2,000 badass points. Michael was too surprised by their gesture. The increasing badass points elevated his mood a couple of times. While he approached Dawn's table, Knight pointed to the empty chair next to Dawn. As soon as Michael sat beside Dawn, the citizens stopped cheering and returned to their seats. Most of them were stunned to see the resemblance between Michael and Dawn, especially how they dressed. Michael's robes were pure black with no colors whatsoever, while Dawn's armor had silver linings and a hood to cover his head. "I heard what you did, thank you." When Michael saw beside him, Dawn thanked him. "You did save my life back there." Michael smiled, unlike Dawn, who had no expression on his face. Quickly, a girl with bunny ears approached the table to refill Michael's empty glass with wine. "I don't drink booze. Can you give me water or any kind of fruit juice?" Amaryl, who came to serve Michael, was stunned by his words. She just gawked at Don and Michael for a moment. You're just like him. Are you related to him or something? Michael noticed the water in Don's glass and realized Amaril's words. To be honest, Michael shared the exact thought as Amaril. The latest _sodies are on the website. He wondered if he and Don had some kind of connection. Let's eat first. Then we will talk about what you're looking for. Don ignored Amaril's question and said to Michael in a low-pitched voice. For some reason, Michael felt Don was aware of what he was looking for in the key. But for now, Michael decided to enjoy the feast with the friendly people of Everlight. After all, the dishes in front of him looked delicious. How's the meal? Amaril didn't sit beside them but continued to serve everyone. She ran around the hall, making everyone eat more than their stomachs could bear. Her hospitality didn't spare even Michael. After eating almost 20 different delicious dishes, Michael was stuffed. It was delicious, Michael said, making Amaril grin widely. If Michael had to guess, whoever cooked the meals must be at a 6-star chef level because the meals were more delicious than Raylene's cooking. After Michael filled the little bit of emptiness in his stomach with hot water, Cataly appeared in the hall. The usual place? She asked Amaril. Don? Amaril pouted and looked at Don with puppy eyes. Why not? Thank you. She dashed at Don and hugged him tightly. Michael was confused, wondering what was going on, but soon he received his answer when Cataly teleported him to another place. In a blink of an eye, Michael and everyone previously sat behind the long oak table that appeared under a big apple tree on a small hill. Michael was immediately captivated by the most beautiful scenery in front of him. He could see the entire Everlight from up here as well as the big lake across the fields. As the light drained away, there was barely enough even for shadows. Whether one liked it or not, the darkness arrived and blanketed everything. Even the stars and moon cowered behind a dense layer of cloud in the sky, giving the air a cold tincture. Everlight's beauty came from its nature. Rather than destroying nature to build things, the citizens of Everlight seemed to have learned to coexist with nature. Hence, there were so many trees that decorated the kingdom. These trees were crazy silhouettes against the newly silver sky, its blue hue almost gone until dawn. Their branches swayed in the wind, creaking into the gusting air. Then finally the first sound of the nocturnal animals arrived, a hoot of an owl, a rabbit taking cover in the hedgerow. The lake in the distance mirrored the cloudy sky and the moon peeking through the clouds as the trees had hidden their bold greens. Finally, dusk was the time to move into the shadowless world. Michael just stared at the sight before him without batting an eye. He was simply speechless. At that moment, Michael had a fire in his heart to settle somewhere he would feel like what he feels right now. Pretty, isn't it? Knight asked as he came beside him with Don. Michael nodded, standing between Don and Knight. The trio stared at the scenery together. You guys created a beautiful place. Glad I could be of help. Don't let the serenity fool you, Ghost, Knight said as Michael turned his head towards Knight. Every day is a battle to keep this place as it is. I don't know when I will be pulled back to my universe. But until then, let me know if you need anything. Michael patted Knight on the shoulder. Visit. For the best no-understanding experience, you've already done enough for us, Ghost. Now tell us what we can do to help you? Don asked Michael. You boys get back here when you're done with boy talks, Amaril shouted from behind. Michael looked over his shoulder to see Amaril, Aurora, and Cataly sitting under the apple tree and picking up a few apples to snack on. I'm looking for something called the key. Apparently the Queen is also looking for it. The Queen, huh? That's what you call her, exclaimed Knight. What do you call her? Athria. That's her real name, Knight answered Michael. Couple of years ago we didn't even know she existed. I just knew about her a few hours ago, Michael sighed. Where did you hear from her? Those cannibals aren't the very talkative type. To be honest guys, this isn't the first universe I visited. Before coming here, I went to 2 other universes. I was fortunate to meet someone who knows a lot more about the Queen. Of course, Michael couldn't say he first heard about the Queen from the system when he killed the skinless creatures. Hence, Michael altered the truth a bit. Since Michael felt no need to hide from Knight and Don about traveling to other universes, he told them about it. Hunter. As soon as Michael heard the name from Knight's mouth, Michael raised his brows. You know him? Yeah. One tough son of a bitch, isn't he? Knight chuckled. The only one who killed Athria's soul piece. Finally, Don opened his mouth and by the tone of his voice, Michael could tell Don was surprised and shocked by Hunter. And crazy enough to try to absorb her soul piece. Knight burst into laughter, but just like Don, he too seemed startled by Hunter's feat. When and where did you guys meet him? Shadow Realm. It was unfortunate we were just there for a couple of minutes and didn't have the chance to meet that crazy son of a bitch, Knight sighed. But he seemed to have met you. Might be a different timeline. Don's words made sense to Michael. Hunter, Draven, Michael, Don, and Knight traveled to other universes in different timelines. So Michael felt he might meet some of them in the future in his own universe. When we went to his universe we didn't meet him, Knight explained. But we all seemed to share a common enemy, didn't we? The latest _IP_SODIs are on the website. Michael nodded. What do you guys know about her? Damn it, I have enough enemies and problems as it is. Now I have to deal with her. Give me a break. You don't have to worry about her. The other soul pieces cannot do anything until we defeat her here. Maybe scream and pull some illusions if you come across them. Otherwise they will remain dormant. Finally, Michael received some good news from Knight. What do you mean? No one knows her origins, but she belonged to this universe when she was alive. So the main part of her soul is here somewhere in this world. Until we wake it up and defeat it, the others will not and cannot do anything. We are not in a rush to face her. Just like you, we already have enough enemies. That's good news, sort of. Have you met one of her generals? Not yet, but I have a feeling we will soon, Knight said. So if her soul is in pieces, that means someone else broke her. Am I right? After connecting the dots, Michael concluded that someone else had battled Athrea. The guardian gods before us, said Don as usual without showing any emotion. According to the ancient scripts left by the civilization before us, Athrea was a goddess of war. Something made her go to the dark side. That's all we know. We have no records of the one who defeated her and broke her into pieces. Knight exhaled and continued, imagine how powerful she must have been when she was whole. Imagine how powerful the god who defeated her must be. Michael couldn't even fathom the power of the god who defeated Athrea. A single general created by Athrea was powerful enough to destroy Michael's words in a few hours. But thanks to Knight's information, Michael calmed down as he had no need to worry about Athrea until Don dealt with the soul piece in his world. Fortunately, Michael had a feeling Don was more than capable of destroying her soul piece. To be honest, Michael decided not to worry about Athrea until he first dealt with the Sky Hall and the Great Eight clans. There was no point in worrying about her and the Hydra at this point in time. So what about the key? You know anything about it? Unfortunately, Knight shook his head. No idea, but if the Shadow Realm brought you here, it must have its own reason. Who knows, maybe you got what it intended for you too. Michael looked around Everlight and took a deep breath. Maybe I did. Surprisingly, Michael did not feel disappointed. Instead, he felt satisfied. By coming to Don's universe, Michael received a legendary item, learned more about the Queen and made some powerful friends. Moreover, he felt relaxed. It had been so long since he loosened up a bit and enjoyed the calmness. Enough about Athrea and her fanatics. Tell me about yourself and your world, Ghost. Hey, we need to hear that too. Ghost, come here, Amaryl shouted from behind as Michael smiled. Visit. For a better user experience, let's go. Don turned around, walked towards Amaryl and sat beside Aurora, leaning back on the tree. I am sorry, Ghost, Knight said after lying on the ground. Why? She is going to ask you so many questions. Shut up, Knight. Don't believe him, Ghost. It's okay, Michael smiled. But let me ask you a question first. Since they were all here, Michael decided to ask the question that had been nagging his brain since he arrived at Everlight. Why do you guys trust me so much? You shared so much with me when you just met me a few hours ago. What makes you think I'm so trustable? Asked Michael. We trust you because we trust guys, Amaryl giggled. Besides, you came from another world. What reason might you have to harm us? Michael nodded. Speaking of guys, where is she? Aurora asked, resting her head on Don's shoulder. She's with Leah. I wish I could eat some of these. Suddenly Catelli looked at the apple in Michael's hand and sighed. Just wait a few more months, Cat. We will find you a suitable body, Knight said as Amaryl rolled her eyes. This time, try to bring a body of a young girl instead of an old man's body. As soon as Amaryl mocked Knight, Michael was taken aback by surprise. The first thing I am gonna do tomorrow is dispose of that body, Knight growled. Well, if you don't mind, can I take a look at the body? Amaryl frowned. Why? Amaryl couldn't think of a reason why Ghost might want to take a look at an empty body void of soul. The latest _IP_SODIs are on the website. Because I have a demon butler and he needs a physical body. You have a demon for a butler? Amaryl was stunned. Michael looked at Knight curiously, thinking whether they have demons or not in their world. I don't think we have demons in this world. At least we haven't come across one yet, Knight chuckled. I have one, but he's in an ethereal form, just like me, huh? Catelli asked Michael. Cataly, bring the body here. We have no need for it anyway, Knight immediately ordered Cataly. Although Cataly could inhabit the body to take physical form, they preferred to get her a physical body suitable for her gender and age. Okie dokie, Cataly disappeared from their sight as Amaryl raised another question. Do you miss your family, Ghost? I would have if I had one, Michael's calm words shocked Amaryl. Everyone turned their gazes at Michael. I'm so sorry. You poor thing, can I ask what happened to them? Amaryl, Knight growled, but Michael waved high hand, wordlessly telling Knight that he didn't mind. Only thing I know about them is they throw me away willingly. Don, who was looking at the horizon, turned his gaze towards Michael. He could see the sadness and pain within Ghost's eyes. Even though Ghost tried to hide it, Don could see it. It felt to Don like he was looking at himself in the mirror. Michael, on the other hand, noticed the sadness emerging in Amaryl's eyes. But I have people who care about me more than my family ever did. Michael emphasized the word family. I am glad to hear that. Do that people include a young girl or girls? Again, I am sorry you have to sit here and take her way into someone's personal life questions. Do you mind, Ghost? Amaryl stuck her tongue out at Knight and asked Ghost. The latter just shook his head and didn't get annoyed by Amaryl because Ghost liked Amaryl. Unlike the elves Michael met in his world, she seemed to be a quirky, funny, caring elf. Visit. For the best no-understanding experience, see Knight, he doesn't mind. Amaryl threw an apple aiming at Knight's head and continued questioning Ghost. Yeah, I have one. And in fact, Michael raised his finger, showing the engagement ring on his finger. You're married? Wait, no, engaged? Michael nodded. Wonderful. I wish I had met her. Suddenly Amaryl burst into a chuckle. Something funny? Aurora asked. I just thought about what she would be called after marrying him. Lady Ghost, hee. What's up with that name anyway? Asked Amaryl, laughing. I don't exist, yet I exist. You want know me until you meet me, and you want live to tell the tale. Hence, Ghost, you are an assassin, aren't you? As soon as Michael uttered these words, Knight asked. What? The way you fought and moved. You mixed warrior style into your combat, but the way of the assassins is still there. That's your base. I saw that. Knight's words showed Michael the experience Knight had in battle. Just by looking at how he fought, Knight guessed Michael's origin as the assassin. I am back. As they were talking, Cataly appeared again. Beside her, there was a glass casket with a body inside. Except for the lower body parts, which were covered by a white cloth, the rest was naked. The body belonged to a half-elf in his late teens, maybe 29 or 28. His dark brown hair reached his shoulder. The body was tall and extremely muscular, but not like a bodybuilder. The body was several inches taller than Michael himself. System, can I give this body to Azazel? Yes. But this body does not belong to the host's world. So the system would require 50,000 badass points to adjust the body to fit Azazel's soul. What about transportation? How do I bring the body from Don's universe to mine? The badass points weren't Michael's concern. Rather, he worried about how to take the body with him. Usually, anything that weighed more than 30 kilograms and cannot be lifted by a normal human being couldn't be put into the system's storage or any space rings. Since the body does not have a soul, it's basically just a shell. The host can cut them into pieces and store them in the system's storage. After reaching your universe, you can merge the parts together. Of course, the system would require 20,000 badass points to do so. No shit, Michael chuckled inside. He expected it because the system would do basically nothing without badass points. Finally, Michael heaved a sigh of relief and crossed one task off his to-do list. Recently, he felt like he had so many things to do. Visit. For a better user experience, he had to help Gaia take over her kingdom and take revenge on her family, find Gaia's mother, assassinate Tenulia, get rid of guardians and vampires, fight the 8 great clans, save sect leader Claire's mother, and reduce Thusia kingdom to ashes. These were just a few things on his list. At least with the body, he had one less thing to do. Michael stood up from the grassy ground and walked towards the glass casket. We brought it from an ancient ruin. It's really amazing how the body remained in this condition for thousands of years. He didn't seem like he died of old age. Neither there any cuts nor wounds in his body. After hearing Knight, Michael guessed it was either someone had created the body or sucked the soul out of it. Just like Michael did to Wilkes. It's only collecting dust in our storage. If you have a way to take it with you, feel free, Knight said. How is he going to do that? It's not a shield to put it inside a space ring, Amaryl questioned Knight. Unless his space ring works differently from ours, Aurora commented. Under their curious gazes, Michael placed his hand on the glass. Can you open it? Cataly nodded, waving her hand as the glass between them slowly vanished. "What are you planning?" Amaryl asked, but quickly closed her mouth when she saw Ghost unsheathing his swords. "When you have a big problem, cut it into smaller pieces," Michael calmly said before slashing the body with his two swords. He moved so quickly that Amaryl could only see a blur. When he stopped cutting, the body remained intact. At least for a few moments. Then, the body crumbled onto the ground, quickly disappearing from the ground. Problem solved. For a few moments, everyone was stunned. They couldn't help wondering how Ghost planned to piece together the body. "Thank you for the body," Michael smiled, breaking the silence. "Well, now I don't have to listen to the dwarves saying I should take the body." Catelyn was pleased to see the body disappearing from the casket. Hence she laughed happily. With a flick of his wrist, Michael took out a parchment from his space ring. "Before I forget, take this." Michael gave the parchment to Knight. "Visit. For a better user experience, this contains the procedure, ingredients, and the formula to create an antiserum for corroded blade and potion to wake anyone from their coma state. This is the least I can do for what you've done to me." Michael felt truly grateful towards them. They did not only give him a legendary shield, but they also gave a body to Azazel. Although it seemed like a normal body, Michael felt immense power from the body. If his gut feeling was right, the body would be worth millions. Moreover, the way they treated Michael earned them his respect and love. They treated him like one of their own and calmed his mind and soul, which helped Michael more than anyone would expect. At that time, Michael just wished he could travel to other universes more often, especially to Everlight. Unfortunately, he began to feel the sucking force. Dawn surprised Michael by looking at the sky. "It seems like your time in this world is up. It's been some years since I felt this force." A gentle smile indicated sorrow and gloom on Knight's face. "Dawn, can't you stop it?" Amaryl grabbed Michael's hands tightly. "Even if I can, I want Amaryl." "He has to return to his own world," said Dawn as the others took a deep breath and prepared to send off Michael. "If fate permits, we will meet again, Amaryl." Michael squeezed Amaryl's shoulder with a smile. "Take this." Dawn took out a black card just like the one Hunter gave Michael from his space ring. "I think you already know how this works," Knight said as Michael nodded. These two obviously had more secrets than they let him know. But, of course, Michael did not blame them as he had his own secrets too. As seconds passed, Michael felt the sucking force getting stronger and stronger. Finally, his feet almost started to rise from the ground. "Remember, Ghost. Do not judge anyone before knowing the full story." Michael did not understand the reason behind Dawn's words. It was sudden and unexpected. But Michael had no time to ask Dawn regarding his words as he was pulled upwards by the suction force. "I hope we meet again, Ghost." Knight waved with a smile, and so did Aurora and Amaryl. To Michael's surprise, Amaryl even shed some tears for him. "Man, I wish I could stay for a couple of days here." While floating in the sky, Michael looked at the beauty of Everlight and sighed. Then the host should earn more badass points. The system almost sounded like it was yelling at Michael. "Unfortunately, this is not the time for a vacation system. I still have so much to do." Michael sighed inside and waved back at them. The very next moment, the suction force pulled back Michael from Everlight. A split second before Everlight disappeared from his sight, Michael saw a ghostly figure of a dark figure with thousands of arms hovering over Everlight. "The Queen," Michael mumbled as everything around him turned pitch black. Finally, his tour to other universes came to an end. Visit. For the best no_vel_id_ng experience, only one thing remained in the Shadow Realm: the key. That was Michael's last destination before returning to the southern continent. However, he had no idea of the surprise waiting for him at the end of his journey in Shadow Realm. Like gum from someone's mouth, the Shadow Realm spat out Michael. Bang! Michael hit the wall beside Sabrina with enough force to break his shoulder bone. "Ghost?" Sabrina was startled. One moment Ghost was with her, and the next he came flying from the opposite side. She didn't fail to hear the sickening crunching sound from his shoulder. His entire right arm looked crooked, but soon, it started to mend itself to its normal state. "What just happened?" Sabrina whispered frantically, looking around for the monster. But luckily she heard no footsteps. Michael's stomach growled as everything turned blurry. "Arg!" Michael gritted his teeth, enduring the pain of a broken shoulder. Thanks to the APD, the healing potion had already started to mend his arm. He grabbed the wall with his left hand and slowly picked himself from the ground. While Sabrina was looking at him bewildered, Michael took deep breaths. "The monster. It's gone?" Sabrina heaved a sigh of relief when she looked around the corner. "Let's go." Michael didn't even take a rest but walked around the corner to continue their journey. He had a feeling the journey was coming to an end. What the hell was that? Sabrina asked Michael. There was definitely something happened in a split second, and she wanted an explanation. What do you mean what just happened? I just got hit by the monster, Michael lied. 1 second I was with you and the next some invisible force threw me around like a rag doll. Michael stretched his back while lying to her. We should get the hell out of here before that monster comes, Michael exclaimed. He did not need to tell Sabrina that the monster was dead when they traveled to another universe. Although the people in his world believed in other realms and other worlds, they had no idea there were other universes out there. Even the Shadow Realm was a myth to them, let alone the other universes. Michael liked to keep it that way. The last thing Michael wanted was Noah to start investigating the Shadow Realm and the other universes. Sabrina believed Ghost because his words made sense. After coming out of Everlight, Michael did not speak much. Instead, his brain replayed Don's last words to him, and Michael tried to make sense of those words. What did he mean by that? Michael questioned himself. Luckily for Michael, Hunter cleaned up most of the skinless creatures in the Shadow Realm. Thus they came across no creatures. Eventually, after walking for another hour, the rune on Sabrina's hand glowed brighter than usual and let out a low-pitched whistling sound. Ghost? Sabrina raised her hand to see the rune pulsing like a heart. Visit. For a better user experience, I think we are close to the key, Michael said. Instead of moving forward, Michael quickly sent his drones into the 2 branching ways in front of them. However, the drones refused to enter the paths as though an invisible shield prevented them from flying through. What should we do? Sabrina asked. What else can we do? Michael raised her hand toward the path and noticed the rune glowing brighter when he pointed her hand towards the right path. Michael did not like walking on an unknown path. Even the system let him down, saying its level is too low to break the energy shield. It was definitely a risk, but Michael had no choice. According to what he learned in Etheria, the key might let the Queen open portals to other universes. Michael connected the dots and concluded that something was stopping the Queen from traveling to other universes. However, the key was something that could remedy the situation in her favor. If Michael could take the key for himself, he could stop a future threat successfully. What's stopping the Queen from getting the key? Michael asked himself. She definitely had minions roaming around the place. So if the key was here, she would have tried to take the key for herself. But something told Michael she didn't get the key yet. According to Hunter, he forgot what happened except killing the skinless creatures in the Shadow Realm. Michael even began to question whether the key was still here or not. Yet, despite everything, he was glad he came to the Shadow Realm. Otherwise, he couldn't have received the Ghost Shield, a physical body for Azazel, and met new people, including his fellow Earthman Hunter Blade. While Michael was recalling his journey from the beginning from the island to getting out of Everlight, he felt the air suddenly get chillier. Ghost? Sabrina also sensed the change in the air. Both of them stopped to look around the place. As far as they could see, there was nothing but dark walls around them. Michael used his thermal vision to ensure no one was around them and saw nothing. Let's keep our guards up. Michael and Sabrina cautiously took steps forward, expecting trouble any second. The surroundings turned darker and gloomier than usual. The more they walked, the chiller the air became. At one point, Michael conjured his alchemy flames to keep their bodies warm. But because Michael was expecting trouble, he did not dare to fly and waste his arch energy. An hour later, the rune on Sabrina's light started to radiate a dim emerald green light. Again they saw no branching ways but a dead end before them. There's no way, Sabrina whispered, standing close to Michael's alchemy flames. The key must be somewhere here. Michael once again looked around to find any clues or something out of place. Whoosh. Visit. For the best no_underscreen_undersing experience, suddenly a strong gust of wind put out Michael's alchemy flames. But although they lost the green flames, Sabrina's rune glowed bright enough to light the gloomy place. What was that? Sabrina frantically looked around until she noticed a blood stain on the ground several meters ahead. When she turned her head to inform Ghost, she noticed his gaze already locked onto the blood stain. He slowly made his way towards the blood stain. It's still warm. Michael squatted, touched the blood and informed Sabrina. What does it mean? Sabrina clenched her sword tight while frantically looking around. She kept waving her hand as though her hand was a torchlight. I have a bad feeling about this, Michael said to himself, looking at the large blood stain on the ground. Michael was about to stand up when the place suddenly turned red, like it was lit with several crimson-red lights. Cring. Michael's neck hair stood up, sensing the sudden danger, but he was too late to react. Several belts made of energy coiled around Michael and prevented him from moving his arms. Michael squirmed against the belts only to fail. They were too strong. Even after using all his strength, he couldn't even move his arms an inch. At that time, several figures appeared out of thin air and surrounded them. Ghost? Sabrina tried to dash at Michael. Boom. A strong gust of wind blasted Sabrina to the wall behind her. She collapsed onto the wall and fell, coughing up blood. The sword in her hand slipped out due to the clash. Michael squirmed against the belts while trying to summon the system. Damn it, system. Don't go offline now. Michael screamed inside his mind, trying to summon the system. On the other hand, more and more cloaked figures appeared out of thin air and encircled Michael and Sabrina. The host doesn't have enough badass points to break the cursed chains. The system's words made Michael's heart skip a beat. Sabrina struggled to pick herself from the ground, and when she finally did, a cloaked figure grabbed her by her hair. She tried to fight, but the cloaked figure simply swatted the sword off her hand. Visit. For a better user experience, every single cloaked figure radiated the energy of a soul refiner, and the man who grabbed Sabrina was at the fusion stage level. The cloaked figure dragged her by the hair without mercy and threw her against the wall beside Michael. Michael counted 11 cloaked figures. One was at the fusion stage and the rest were all at the soul refining stage. There was no way Michael could defeat them. Arg? Michael growled as he used every bit of strength in his body to break the strings around him. Even if he could break them, he didn't know how to escape the place. As he growled, a cloaked figure dashed at Michael and banged his head against the wall. Michael's forehead split open as the blood gushed out. As a result, his vision blurred. Not only the strings prevented Michael from moving his limbs, but they also stopped him from casting spells. In other words, the strings blocked the arch-energy flow in his body, thus making him powerless. No matter how hard Michael squirmed, he simply couldn't break the strings. On the other hand, the cloaked figure that threw Sabrina against the wall repeatedly kicked her in the gut until she began coughing more blood. Michael was not in a better state as he got his head banged against the wall by the cloaked figure behind him. Nevertheless, the APD kept injecting him with healing potions into his bloodstream, which helped Michael from losing consciousness. Unfortunately, Sabrina had no APD. The dark cloaked figure kicked her until she stopped twitching. Leave her alone. Michael stuttered. Tricky little bugger. Michael heard the deep beastly voice coming from the dark figure at the fusion stage level. In a blink of an eye, the dark figure appeared before Michael and grabbed Michael's wrist. Michael growled in pain as the dark figure crushed his wrist, destroying the APD. Beg for your life. The figure ran his finger across Michael's bloody face. Why don't you remove these strings first? Michael snarled, showing no signs of fear in his eyes. Bloodsucker. Michael spat blood onto the figure's face and roared like a wounded beast. The dark figure hid his face with the dark cloak, but despite Michael's blurry vision, he saw the two long fangs sticking out of his mouth. We prefer the term night walkers, as the dark figure exclaimed. The figures slowly removed their cloaks, revealing their fangs and faces. Michael couldn't even guess how they managed to enter the shadow realm. He did not even sense them despite all of his countermeasures. One thing was sure to Michael: he was in for a deadly ride. The latest _IP_SODs are on the website. The fusion stage vampire had slanted obsidian eyes with slitted pupils that could extend on stalks. His mouth had prominent fangs as the red hair was more a set of spines than anything else. Unlike the rest of the tall, thin-as-stick vampires, he had a graceful build. You killed our brethren. The vampire came closer to Michael and licked the blood coming off of Michael's forehead. As soon as he tasted Michael's blood, he jolted. This blood, wow. The vampire looked speechless. I have never tasted such powerful blood. This must be why you are so over the top in cultivation. Each vampire wanted a taste of Michael's blood. But fortunately, the leader decided to beat up Michael to near death before drinking his blood. Nightwalker? Cowards suit you better, Michael growled. Bang. The vampire behind Michael banged Michael's head against the wall yet again. Leave him alone. Sabrina reached out for Ghost, only to get her hands crushed by the fusion stage vampire. Why don't we properly introduce ourselves, huh? The vampire's cold voice echoed through the gloomy dungeon. I am Zarather. One of the many elders. Zarather punched Michael the moment he finished introducing himself and raised Michael off the ground by his neck. And you are Ghost, the human who killed one of us? Bang. Zarather punched Michael in the face, instantly breaking Michael's nose. At that time, Sabrina struggled to get herself up. But unfortunately, Zarather turned his gaze towards Sabrina. The rune bearer. Zarather picked Sabrina from the ground by her glowing hand. You have one last task to perform. Zarathur slapped Sabrina, almost making her lose consciousness. He dragged her to the wall before them and placed her glowing hand on the wall. The wall pulled her hand like a magnet. With his blurry vision, Michael saw the wall trembling violently. Michael was still looking for a way to escape without revealing his other identity. He wasn't sure if he could kill all of them in his Dark Lord form. In case a vampire escaped the place alive, he would be in a heap of trouble. At that time, the entire Sky Hall and the Guardians would be at his doorsteps. Visit. For the best no understanding experience, but he saw no other way than turning into a Dark Lord. The vampires were simply too strong to fight his ghost. Several moments later, the wall slowly crumbled down, revealing an empty hollow. Where is the key? Zarathur creased his brows. He put his hand inside the hollow to search for the key but found nothing. Just like everyone else, Michael was startled by the twist too. After dealing with everything, he learned that the key had already been taken by someone else. Hunter's face came before Michael's eyes. But after recalling Hunter's words, Michael didn't think Hunter had taken the key. Where is the key? Zarathur turned his gaze towards Sabrina. Zarathur grabbed Sabrina's neck, starting to squeeze her neck. Her face slowly turned purple as she twitched violently for air. Looking at Sabrina slowly dying, the images of the first time they met, their journey, and how she blanketed him with a smile flashed across Michael's eyes. System, take a loan and break the strings. Even if the host took the maximum amount of loan, you would still lack points to break the strings. Taking a loan was Michael's last line of defense. He clenched his fist after hearing the system's words. I know where the key is, Michael stuttered. As soon as Zarathur heard Michael, he took his gaze away from Sabrina. Where? Asked Zarathur. Leave her alone and I will tell you. If you don't, I will snap her neck. Instead of letting Sabrina go, Zarathur lifted her higher. You can't get the key without her. Michael could barely utter these words due to the intense pain in his head. Finally, Zarathur released his grip around Sabrina's neck. She frantically gasped for air on the ground. Now tell us, system, can you teleport us out of here? The system can't teleport with the cursed chains around you. Visit. For the best no_vel_undersng experience, yet again the system let Michael down. Only by one, every plan Michael came up with failed because of the cursed chains around him. Tell him. The vampire behind Michael lost his patience. As a result, he kicked Michael in the knee. Arg! Michael growled in pain, and to be honest, he wanted to scream out loud. His knee was shattered by the vampire with a single kick. The pain was simply too much. However, the vampire did not stop with breaking his knees. Instead, the vampire kicked him on the back as Michael hit the ground with enough force to crack his jaw. Where is the key? Zarathur placed his boot on Michael's face, pressing his face against the floor. Let him go. Sabrina struggled to pick herself up, and she did by mustering every bit of strength left in her body. Look at these two. Playing games? Zarathur burst into a peal of evil laughter. She has a rune and he has sweet heavenly blood. I am confused about which one to kill you first. Why do I feel like you both have no idea about the key? Zarathur frowned. I said. Sabrina wiped off the blood from the corner of her mouth. Let him go. No one expected Sabrina to suddenly leap at Zarathur except Zarathur. He reacted just in time and grabbed Sabrina by her neck. At that time, Michael was under his boot and Sabrina was in his hand, fighting for her life. But no matter how hard she hit Zarathur's hand, he did not let her go. As Zarathur was crushing Michael with his boots, another vampire appeared out of thin air and came rushing to Zarathur. Michael noticed the vampire whispering something into Zarathur's ear. The order directly came from the above? Zarathur questioned the vampire as the dark figure nodded. The latter didn't even notice Michael and Sabrina. What a pity, Zarathur sighed. Well, an order is an order. I am not good at choosing though. Zarathur looked at both Sabrina and Michael for a moment. Then when he stepped back, another vampire lifted Michael off the ground by his neck. So I am in a dilemma. Zarathur put his hand behind his snack and began to walk left and right. I have good and bad news. Good news first. Luckily, my superiors want me to leave one of you alive so you would go outside and tell the world not to fuck with night walkers, Zarathur exclaimed. Which brings me to the bad news. Leaving one of you alive means one of you has to die. Hey race, why I am in a bind. Zarathur pointed his finger at Michael. You have a delicious sweet blood I have never tasted in my life. Then he pointed his finger at Sabrina. You have the rune, which is probably something we might need in the future. Visits? For a better user experience, Zarathur rubbed his chin, pretending to be conflicted. So who should I let live? Ghost? As Zarathur was rubbing his chin, Sabrina turned to look at Ghost. The blood running across his eyes still blurred his vision, yet he could vaguely see Sabrina's tears. Despite the situation, she managed to smile warmly. Thank you for everything." Seeing Sabrina suddenly smiling and talking to Ghost, Zarather, and all the vampires locked their gazes with Sabrina. "It's my fault. I am sorry I put you through all of this," she spoke, fighting through the lump in her throat. Her tears gushed out like a flood breaking out of the dam. "Tell my family I didn't die a coward. Sabia." Michael couldn't even pronounce her name correctly because of his broken jaw. At that time, Michael had a cracked frontal lobe, a shattered knee, and a broken jaw. Even if he broke the strings, he wouldn't be able to fight without chugging several healing potions. "When I prayed for my brother to rescue me, you appeared before me." Without Michael's control, tears rolled out of his eyes. He clenched his fist, knowing what she was about to do. It was obvious she plans to kill herself so the vampires would let him live. However, how could anyone believe the vampires? Michael had never felt so powerless like this ever before in his life. If he transformed himself into Dark Lord, Sabrina would learn the truth about him. If he didn't, she would die for him. Why? Michael really wondered why Sabrina wanted to sacrifice herself for him. He wasn't Noah or her family. Instead, he was a stranger to her. They practically spent a few hours together. Yet, Sabrina prepared to kill herself so Michael could live. The vampires, on the other hand, looked at her pain with joyful grins on their faces. They enjoyed Sabrina's suffering. "Noah, that brat would kill me if he knew." Sabrina let out a miserable smile. The images of her childhood, the time she spent with her family, and her happy memories flashed across her eyes. "But thank you for being the greatest big brother to me in the last moments of my life," Sabrina softly said to Michael. When she was helpless and desperate, Ghost was the only one who came to her help. In a short amount of time, he took care of her like she was his little sister. She didn't care what the others thought of him. To her, he was a great mentor and a brother. She just wished she could spend a little more time with him. Michael frantically squirmed, but giving him a gentle smile, she stomped the ground, caught the sword, and stabbed herself with it. After stabbing herself through the chest, she slowly collapsed to the ground. Everything around Michael paused. He couldn't take his eyes off of her smiling face. Michael's legs gave up as he dropped to his knees. "Goodbye," Sabrina whispered before closing her eyes, embracing the darkness. "Damn," Zarather shouted, clapping and laughing. "That was epic. She sacrificed herself for him." "I thought that stuff only happens in human stories," Michael heard Zarather laughing. "Visit. For a better user experience, it's dark." Zarather's laugh echoed through the walls as Michael stared at Sabrina's dead body. When Sabrina's heartbeat stopped, Michael's anger exploded within him. "System, use everything I have and block the vampires from leaving this place," Michael said to the system in his mind. "Yes, host." The system did not dare to utter any words. It sounded terrified of Michael, and it should be because the vampires broke Michael's limit. Michael tried to reach out to touch her face, but he couldn't. Meanwhile, the vampires laughed wholeheartedly as their evil laughter echoed through the dungeon. "They only said to let one live, right?" Zarather licked his lips as he took a deep whiff of the air. The smell of Michael's blood captivated the vampire. Zarather walked toward Michael, craving more blood. But as he approached Michael, the dungeon started to grow darker. Additionally, the silent shadow realm suddenly got filled with rumbling thunderclaps. The grins on their faces instantly vanished. The crimson-red atmosphere gradually returned to the gloomy black and white. "What's happening?" Zarather looked around with a confused face. All the vampires frantically moved their heads around to see what was happening until they saw the dark cloud enveloping Ghost. Michael slowly picked himself up as the dark cloud grew thicker to the point the vampires couldn't see his face anymore. "Arghar!" The vampires jolted back when they heard Michael's beastly roar. Zarather was in a state of shock, seeing the cursed chains cracking little by little. In a few moments, the chains coiled around Michael, completely shattered. Clang, clang, clang. "Holy fuck!" Zarather took a step back, realizing what was happening. Since Cloud of Darkness affected the weak-willed enemies to lose their courage and surrender, some of the vampires began to shiver. The place almost turned pitch black due to the death range and Cloud of Darkness. Michael did not hold back. He activated every spell in his arsenal to boost his power. Moreover, his anger fueled his power to the next level. At that moment, his power was equal to a fusion stage level 2 cultivator. In other words, he and Zarather were at the same level. Visit. For the best no_vil_underscored_undershinji experience. "You're the Dark Lord," Zarather mumbled. The vampire who arrived last tried to leave the place by teleporting away. They all arrived at the Shadow Realm using a teleporter. That was why Michael did not sense them or see them coming. However, Michael locked the place with the help of the system. It cost Michael 200,000 badass points, but he didn't give a damn. Michael dashed at the vampire several meters behind Zarather. Shit! The vampire's heart skipped a beat. The vampire tried to reach for the dagger hanging on his waist, but Michael punched the vampire in the chest. Poch! The vampires were startled as Michael's hand came out of the vampire's back. Since Michael enveloped himself with the dark fire, the vampire's armor did not protect him. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 5,000 badass points. Michael crushed the beating heart of the vampire with his bare hand. The gruesome sight affected already terrified vampires. Before the vampires could react, Michael dashed at another vampire. Bang! Michael headbutted the vampire, distorting the vampire. Then Michael pulled out the vampire's throat with his bare hands. However, that did not kill the vampire. Holding his throat, the vampire growled as Michael grabbed the vampire by his head and burned his head with the dark flames. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage level 7. After leveling up, Michael's power skyrocketed as more and more vampires began to be affected by the cloud of darkness. However, some of them snapped out of their shock and dashed at Michael, casting various speed spells. Michael just cast the Ring of Fire to create the dark flame ring around him to burn the vampires. The vampires reacted quickly by shielding them with a translucent blood-red energy shield. Regardless of their shields, the dark flames burnt their skin. Arga! The vampires screamed in agony as the air in the dungeon reeked with the stench of burning flesh. Shit! Zarather tried to teleport back to their headquarters. The vampires did not dare to underestimate the Dark Lord. Hence, instead of fighting him alone, Zarather tried to get back up from their headquarters. Yet no matter how many times he tried, he couldn't teleport himself. Visit. For the best no_vel_ed_ng experience at that time, the vampires shot several blood beams at Michael. Clang! Clang! Michael quickly raised his arm, taking out his shield and blocking the beams. Despite the lightness of the shield, it stopped all the attacks. While blocking the blood beams, Michael locked his gaze with the vampire who banged his head against the wall earlier. The vampire felt a chill running down his spine when he saw the Dark Lord's head turning towards him. He didn't even blink an eye when Michael appeared before him. Michael was pushing himself to the absolute limit. Thus, he moved fast to the point he left after images. Although the vampires and Michael were at the same cultivation stage, the darkness and anger made him several times more powerful than them. Michael was a god after all. The vampires barely had time to cast any spells or even to attack him. Bang! Michael dragged the vampire to the same wall against which the vampire banged his head and returned the favor. Usually Michael would quickly finish off his enemies, but now he wanted them to suffer for killing Sabrina. Zarather saw Michael banging the vampire's head against the wall mercilessly until the head turned into a bloody mush. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Zarather finally gave up on trying to teleport away and decided to attack the Dark Lord. He dashed at Michael at the speed of lightning. But Michael already moved on to another target. Despite Michael's overwhelming anger, he kept the anger from blinding him. He wanted to get as strong as possible before targeting Zarather. Therefore, Michael picked the Soul Refining Stage vampires one by one. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Michael killed another 2 vampires by crushing their heads in the blink of an eye. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage level 8. In a few moments, Michael killed 5 out of 12 vampires and almost became as powerful as a fusion stage level 4 warrior. Visit. For a better user experience, suddenly Michael looked at the dark sky and roared to the point the entire dungeon trembled. His voice turned demonic without using any modulators. H kept roaring until the walls began to crack, and the vampires collapsed to the ground covering their ears. A few vampires even bled through their ears and eyes. When Michael stopped roaring, Zarather felt like a storm had passed by them. He saw the Dark Lord breathing heavily, and the place became darker every time his chest rose up. You. The Dark Lord pointed his finger at Zarather. Zarather took a deep breath and dashed at him. Michael covered himself with dark flames while Zarather enveloped himself with a blood shield. When the two of them clashed, the shock wave sent the vampires flying onto the walls. Michael sent several bolts of lightning toward the vampires who were burnt by the dark flames when he cast the Ring of Fire. Unfortunately, they were already on the verge of death, so they died instantly when the lightning bolt hit them. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage level 9. If the current stage was not enough, Michael consumed several Berserker pills to boost his strength. Instead of using the swords, Michael took out the Doombringer and swung at Zarather as fast as he could. The latter was caught off guard as he didn't expect Dark Lord to fight using a warhammer. Zarather quickly waved his hand as a blood stream materialized in front of him, saving him from the warhammer. However, he didn't see Dark Lord disappearing from his sight once again. Bang! Michael brought the Doombringer on a vampire's head. Zarather dashed at Michael to stop him from killing more of his brethren. Yet, Michael had already killed another two by crushing their heads with the Doombringer. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 6,000 badass points. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is the Soul Refining Stage level 10. Only 3 vampires remained in the dungeon at that time, including Zarather. No one would have suffered as you will, Michael growled at Zarather and raised his hands as the remaining 2 vampires began to rise from the ground. They slowly floated toward Michael while Zarather closed his eyes, summoning a large red chakra made of blood. Go! Zarather fired the chakra at Michael as Michael sent a powerful gust of wind mixed with darkness to halt the chakra in midair. The momentary halt gave Michael enough time to kill the remaining 2 vampires. He first burnt them using the dark flames to prevent them from casting any spells. Then he hit their heads with the Doombringer, using every bit of his strength. Visit. For a better user experience, ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 8,000 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for killing a vampire. The reward is 300,000 experience points and 20,000 badass points. Congratulations to the host for reaching the next stage, the fusion stage. After killing every single vampire except Zarather, Michael had finally reached the fusion stage to become the youngest cultivator to reach the fusion stage. No one in the entire world achieved such a humongous feat, not even Layla or Victoria, the Princess of Thusia. By reaching the fusion stage at a young age, Michael sealed the chance to become an immortal in the future. However, nothing was in his mind at that moment except killing Zarather and making him pay for what he did to Sabrina. To be honest, Michael had never felt such anger ever before in his life. Not even when Spectre and his students killed everyone in Michael's orphanage back on Earth. When he sensed Sabrina's heartbeat stops, his anger exploded within him. Zarather may have stood a chance against the Dark Lord when Michael was at the Soul Refining Stage. Now, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in front of Michael. Michael released all the fear toxins stored in the microtubes within his armor as the fear toxins slowly entered Zarather's bloodstream. In addition, Michael used everything to boost his strength. The Dark Lord, Zarather mumbled under his breath as fear slowly clasped his heart. You just sealed the fate of your kind, Michael threatened Zarather. Instead of dashing at Zarather using his lightning dash spell, Michael slowly stepped toward him. Blood Beam. Rage Chakra. Life Sucker. Zarather cast spell after spell to stop and kill Michael, but Michael deflected the spells using the Ghost Shield and Responsive Shield. Of course, some of the spells hit Michael and made him bleed, but he was too furious to feel any pain. As the Dark Lord approached Zarather, the latter stopped casting spells that would take too much time to cast and began to cast quick spells. At that time, Michael was bombarded with arrows made of blood shooting out of Zarather's arms. Although the Responsive Shield couldn't stop the arrows completely, it absorbed most of the arrows' energy and made them weak. Thus, the arrows that escaped the Ghost Shield grazed Michael. As a result, he has multiple cuts and bruises on his body. Ding. One of the arrows hit Michael in the face and took a piece of his skull mask, leaving half of Michael's face exposed. Despite everything, Michael approached Zarather under the rain of arrows. Hundreds of arrows rained down on Michael from all directions. If the spell was cast on someone else, they would have been skewered by the arrows and turned into a bloody mush. The power of a fusion stage cultivator was not a joke, as even the weakest combat spell would be deadly when a fusion stage cultivator cast the spell. Under the rain of arrows, Michael finally arrived in front of Zarather and grabbed him by his neck. Now the tables were turned as Michael squeezed Zarather's throat. Next, Michael raised his other hand, pinching Zarather's fang. The vampire squirmed violently as Michael pulled out his fang with his bare hand. Arg! Zarather frantically squirmed in Michael's hand. The vampire couldn't scream out loud because Michael's hand was around his neck. Otherwise, Zarather's scream would have echoed through the dungeon. While Zarather was squirming in agony, Michael pulled out his other fang. Visit. For a better user experience, bang. After pulling his second and last fang, Michael punched Zarather right in the mouth, breaking all of his teeth. Typically, Michael would have interrogated the vampire to know the location of their headquarters, more information about the key and who sent them all. However, at that moment, Michael wasn't in the mood for interrogation but torture. Still, a corner of his mind told him to take the ring in Zarather's hand. Arg! Instead of removing the arm, Michael broke Zarather's middle finger and ripped the finger clean off from his hand. Michael then stored the bloody finger in his system storage before throwing Zarather to the wall on the other side. Bang! Zarather went flying to the wall like a kite without an anchor. The fear toxin made thinking difficult for Zarather. His mind was in a boggle as Michael raised his hand towards the Doombringer, which lay on the ground several meters away from him. He controlled the wind element surrounding the Doombringer and made the warhammer fly into his arm. Michael stepped on the vampire between him and Zarather, crushing the vampire's head under his feet. Granted, the dungeon was usually dark and gloomy. Still, it had never been dark and gloomier than at that moment when Michael approached Zarather with the Doombringer in his hand. Teleport. Teleport. Teleport me away. Zarather screamed in his mind, but nothing happened no matter how many times he ordered his minions to teleport him away. He quickly raised his arm to cast a spell, Blood Dash. However, his spell casting was abruptly cut short as a bolt of lightning went straight through his shoulder. Another lightning bolt went through another shoulder, cutting his spell casting short. Wait. Listen, Dash. Zarather tried to escape the Dark Lord's wrath by striking a deal with him. But, of course, it would have worked if Zarather hadn't forced Sabrina to kill himself. Boom. Visit. For a better user experience, a powerful gust of wind blasted Zarather against the wall on another side. Bang. Zarather hit the wall, but before hitting the ground, another gust of wind blasted him to another wall. The wind blast turned Zarather into a rag doll flying around. The wind blast, powered by celestial energy and dark flames, had enough force to break many of Zarather's bones in his body. When Zarather finally hit the ground after getting blasted into the walls like a doll, his right arm and left leg looked crooked. If it wasn't for the vampire's ability to regenerate, Zarather would have died by now. However, his healing ability was interrupted by the dark flames mixed with the wind blasts Michael sent in his direction. Michael noticed the cuts in Zarather's body slowly closing up and conjured a ball of dark flame in his hand. Zarather felt a chill looking at the dark flames dancing above his hand. In his 200 years of life, he had never seen such a powerful, ominous flame. No healing, Michael sent a blast of dark flames, scorching Zarather's clothes and skin. The strong stench of burning skin would nauseate anyone who takes a whiff of the air in the dungeon. Arghar. This time, Zarather's scream wasn't muffled by Michael. Thus, his scream echoed through the dungeon halls for miles. The dark flame made Zarather unrecognizable. His striking red hair was completely burnt by the flame, as well as his black robes. The only thing that kept Zarather alive and lasted his agony was the regenerative ability of a vampire. Michael let Zarather heal a bit so he could inflict more pain on him. Then, on his way to Zarather, Michael burnt every single vampire on the ground with the dark flames. As a result, the vampires turned into a pile of ashes. The entire ground was engulfed by the dark flame except for the area around Sabrina's body. He controlled the fire from reaching her as Michael wanted to hand over Sabrina to her family and give her a proper burial. The vampires were not the only reason for her death. The Guardians were just as guilty as the vampires. If it wasn't for them, she wouldn't have been here. The Guardians could have easily come up with another safe plan to get the key with Sabrina's help. Instead, they looked for a quick and dirty way, endangering Sabrina's life. As far as Tenulia and her fellow Guardians were concerned, the end justifies the means. But unlike they expected, everything went south and Sabrina ended up dying. Michael didn't know about Noah, but he would avenge Sabrina's death by killing every guardian who knew about Sabrina and whoever stands in his way when he brings down the wrath of the darkness upon them. For now he only focused on making Zarather pay, nothing more, nothing less. Thank you for being the greatest big brother to me. Michael repeated Sabrina's last words as he raised his hand, making the wind beneath Zarather lift him up against the wall. Will you tell me who sent you here? Michael asked Zarather coldly. Go, fuck, yourself. Visit. For a better user experience, Zarather spat on Michael's face, but thanks to the dark flames, his bloody saliva vaporized before it could reach Michael's face. It doesn't make a difference. You will suffer the same. Michael kicked Zarather's, shattering his knee and making him collapse down. Jerry, Zarather growled as Michael put his feet on Zarather's shoulder and pushed him down while holding his head with his hands. Michael suddenly shook his head as the skull mask flew away from his face. Look at my face. Michael tightened his grip around Zarather's burnt face. This is the face who is going to destroy your kind. Michael pushed down Zarather and began to lift up Zarather's head until the head started to separate from his body. Arga! The sickening scream of Zarhat reverberated in the dungeon, but there was no one to stop Michael. Suddenly dark blood sprayed out of Zarather's body as Michael separated his head from the body with bare hands. Plop. Michael kicked down Zarather's headless body and looked at the severed head in his hand. He raised the head to eye level to see the fear and pain in Zarather's eyes. At that moment, every bit of Michael's focus was on Zarather's head. The world around him just paused in his perspective. That was the reason Michael failed to notice the slight disturbance in the air behind him. Ghost? Michael heard a familiar voice from behind as his body froze for a moment. But instead of dashing away or trying to disappear from the place, Michael slowly turned around because he knew it was too late to do anything. When he turned around with Zarather's head in his hands, he saw Sabrina standing before him. Her white robes were drenched in blood, and the sword was still sticking through her chest. Due to the blood loss, she looked pale, but she was alive as Michael could hear her heartbeat. Visit. For the best no____ experience you. You're the Dark Lord. You're the Dark Lord. Sabrina shivered as she looked at Ghost's face through all the dark mist and cloud enveloping him. She slowly dragged her feet towards Michael. It's you. She could barely raise her hand to touch his face. Sabrina? Michael was conflicted. He saw her die and sensed her heartbeat stop. Yet she was standing before him alive. His mind was boggled. How? Michael questioned himself. At that time he didn't know when he roared in anger, the sound kick-started her heart again. His roar contained such power. As she was touching his face, she suddenly lost the strength in her legs and collapsed back, only to get caught by Michael. He squatted down slowly, putting her on the ground while drawing out the sword from her chest. He immediately took out a healing potion to give her, but she shook her head and swatted away the healing potion. Let me die. Otherwise, Sabrina coughed up blood. Your secret won't be safe. She smiled despite the excruciating pain in her chest. Do you think I am evil as everyone says? Michael asked Sabrina. You're far from evil. She touched Michael's cheek again with her bloody hand. For some reason, her gentle smile warmed his heart and made him calm down. Your brother and everyone in this world hunt me. They think I am evil, Michael calmly said. Yet they weren't here to stop the actual evil. Sabrina coughed a couple of more times as her face turned paler. Michael could sense her heartbeat slowing down. She had lost too much blood. At this point, even the healing potion couldn't guarantee her survival unless Michael gave her his 90% pure healing potion along with a potion to make her body produce more blood. Can you give my body to my family? Sabrina asked, tears rolling down her eyes. Don't tell them what happened to me. Father and mother must not know about anything. Even in her dying breath, she didn't want her family to be saddened by her death. I died instantly by some poisoning. You can make them believe it, right? Michael couldn't understand the girl's thought process at all. She wanted to sacrifice herself so he could feel better knowing his secret was safe. However, if she died when he could have easily saved her, his heart would nag him until he dies. Michael hated that feeling. So you want to die so I will feel better? Michael questioned Sabrina. That's the least I can do for you. Visit. For a better user experience, will you tell others my secret? Sabrina slowly shook her head right away. If I let you die, then it'll be the evil they say I am. As soon as he said these words, a sparkling blue potion materialized in his hand. Sabrina tried to resist, but he simply overpowered her and poured the potion into her mouth. After emptying the potion into her mouth, he took out a blood-red potion and chugged it down her throat just like before. It didn't even take the potion a few seconds to start healing her body. Just several seconds later, Michael noticed the wound in her chest rapidly closing up as the rosiness in her skin returned. Compared to all the few risks Michael took in this world, saving Sabrina might just be the biggest. Now she knew his biggest secret, which could end his life in this world if exposed. Nonetheless, Michael saved her because she basically sacrificed herself for him and willing to die again so his secret could be safely buried with her. Michael simply wasn't ready to let her die to keep his secret. If he had let her die, there would be no difference between him and the Guardians. Finally, Sabrina felt her strength returning to her body as well as the pain lessening. Her vision cleared, enabling her to see Ghost's face more clearly. "Why did you save me?" She was still on the ground with her head in his hand. "Because I am stupid and not evil enough," Michael sighed, chuckling. "But this doesn't change anything. If your brother comes after me, I will kill him." Michael's smile disappeared from his face as the dark cloud around him appeared again, stronger and denser. It took a few seconds for Sabrina to get to her feet, and the moment she did, she asked Michael, "What? Why do you two want to kill each other?" "He wants to capture me and brings me to justice. Your brother still doesn't know how this world works. He wants to save the world, yet he couldn't even save his own sister." Sabrina wanted to talk back to save Noah's image but simply couldn't find any words because he was right. "I trust you with my biggest secret, Sabrina. Don't break my trust." Michael placed his hand on her shoulder and squeezed. Although his gentle smile calmed her mind, she did feel so confused and startled by what she had just learned. Still, she had no idea her brother Noah was the god of light who was destined to battle the god of darkness. She also didn't know her brother was the next supreme guardian. As far as she knew, her brother was one of the guardians who were trying to capture the Dark Lord. "Despite everything, you have my word you can trust me. I'd rather die than expose your secret." "I know." Visit. For a better user experience since she literally died and again tried to die just to keep his secret safe. Thus, Michael had no trust issues with her. It was a risk, yet Michael wouldn't have it any other way. "We better find a way out of here." Michael closed his eyes for a moment, willing the system to unequip his Lucifer armor. In a blink of an eye, Sabrina saw the Dark Lord turns back into Ghost. She felt speechless when she looked around the place and noticed the piles of ashes lying around. There was not a single vampire who lived to tell the tale. While Sabrina was in shock, Michael went to the hollow in the hall to inspect the wall. "The key? Where did you go?" Michael ran his hand all over the hollow yet found nothing. "Who took you?" Sabrina, Michi, quickly had a thought as he called Sabrina to him. When she arrived by his side, he took her hand and placed it inside the hollow. The rune in her hand surprisingly began to bright glow brighter than ever. "Ah!" She suddenly squealed as though something bit her hand. "What?" asked Michael with both an excited and concerned look on his face. "The key," she stuttered. "Where is it?" For a few moments Sabrina just stood there like a living statue. When Michael looked into her eyes, he saw fear and shock. "The key? Yes, the key. What about it? Did you see its location?" Michael asked, slightly shaking her shoulders. "Margoth? The key is Margoth?" "Margoth?" Michael was taken aback by surprise. If his memory was right, Margoth was the venom-like creature attached to Draven in Etheria. "What do you mean?" Michael wondered whether Sabrina had traveled to Etheria or not. "I can't describe it. I just felt it." "The key is Margoth," Sabrina mumbled, making Michael confused. "Ghost." She suddenly took her gaze away from the hollow in the wall to Michael. "The latest studies are on website." "I heard something else." Her face was pale as she trembled. Michael had to grab her shoulder to stop her from shivering. "The voice, it sounded like your other voice." Her words startled Michael. The voice said, "The key is safe with Draven, and the Queen can't take it for now. The future me." Michael immediately thought about his future self. It was apparent to Michael that his future self had something to do with the key. If his instincts were right, the Dark Lord from the future sent the key to Etheria to keep it safe from the Queen. However, he couldn't grasp the concept of Margoth. How could Margoth be the key? That question riddled Michael's mind non-stop. "I assume we can't get the key then," Michael sighed. Although he was disappointed, Sabrina's words calmed his mind down. At least the Queen wouldn't be able to get the key for now. Still, Michael wanted to make sure the key stays safe forever out of the Queen's grasp. He had enough enemies to deal with, and the last thing he wanted was another powerful being like Etheria to come after him. Fortunately, Dawn reassured Michael he would take care of her in his universe. Draven would keep the key safe in Etheria. The only unpredictable thing about the key was not the queen but Hunter. Michael had no idea what was Hunter's plan. He literally killed Athrea's soul and tried to absorb her. He was crazy and powerful as far as Michael could see. At least for now, Michael didn't have to worry about the key. Finally, his journey throughout the dungeon came to an end. The one last thing that remained for him to do was to find a way out of the place. Let's look around the place. We still haven't figured out a way to get out of here. You know anything about the voices in this thing called Margoth? Sabrina suddenly questioned Michael, only to see him shake his head. Being the Dark Lord doesn't mean I know everything. Since Michael was an expert liar, Sabrina couldn't help believing him. But can you at least snap us out of her with your god powers? I can't, but I think the way out of the Shadow Realm is here somewhere, Michael said as he looked around the empty place again. He used every type of vision, including the thermal vision, to see any weird heat signatures. While he was looking around, Sabrina concentrated on the glowing rune in her hand. Maybe the way out is with me, Sabrina mumbled. Michael then saw Sabrina raise her hand towards the sky with her eyes closed. He wondered what she was trying to do, but surprisingly, he sensed the space around them distorting as though she was activating a teleportation portal. Visit. For a better user experience, the brightness of the rune on her hand suddenly soared through the roof as its golden light lit the entire gloomy dungeon with its radiance. Under the warm light, Michael felt his body being lifted above. Soon afterward, the both of them just vanished into thin air. The teleportation array in the Shadow Realm teleported the two of them back to the island entrance. Since time was not a concept in the Shadow Realm, nothing had changed on the island. The dead bodies of the vampires littered the sandy shore while the ship danced with the wind on the blue sea. Not even a second passed here, Michael said after looking at the dead bodies. The blood on the sandy shore was just as warm as he left. Sabrina took a deep breath, calming her mind and soul. She had gone through so many things over the last couple of weeks. Now she wanted nothing more than a good sleep on her own bed. However, the fact that Ghost was the Dark Lord and Noah might come across him worried her. She witnessed the Dark Lord in action and truly feared for Noah's life. I can teleport you outside the void line. From there you can fly to Kethen. Michael quickly bought a teleportation scroll from the system and threw it at Sabrina. What will you do? Sabrina, this is where we will depart, Michael said instead of answering her question. If I were you, I'd tell everything Guardians, and the vampires did to you to your brother and sister. The far your brother is from the Guardians, the better for him. What about you? Will you tell him if you get the chance? Asked Sabrina bewilderedly. Make no mistake, Sabrina. As long as your brother is a Guardian and coming after me, hell be my foe. I don't usually show mercy to my foes. However, I always had a soft spot for you Winstons. That's why I am giving you a chance to let your brother know the true face of the Guardians. Sabrina trembled hearing his cold tone as he continued. Your brother is being used by the Guardians. Now you have a chance to show him the true colors of the Guardians. I will tell him everything except the truth about you. Michael nodded, appreciating Sabrina's conviction to keep his secret safe. Will we meet anytime sooner? When Michael started to descend into the air, she asked him. Although they were inside the void line, Sabrina wasn't surprised to see him using arch energy. At this point, nothing about him could surprise her. Michael, however, did not give her an answer but just smiled. The next moment, he turned himself into a lightning bolt and disappeared from the island, leaving Sabrina behind. She started at the trail of golden light he left behind until he completely disappeared from her sight. Only then did she take a deep breath and tear the scroll, activating it. After finally leaving the island, Michael flew towards Jysel. He could teleport to reach Jysel instantly, but Michael chose to fly because he wanted to calm his mind and soul. Flying alone always enabled him to think clearly. Although Sabrina learned his secret, he couldn't get himself to kill her. While flying towards Jysel, Michael flicked his wrist as a vial of blood appeared in his hand. The vial contained Sabrina's blood. His hand literally shivered to hold the vial. If his instincts were proven correct, it would shake him to the core and change his world upside down. With everything in his mind, Michael continued to fly toward Jysel. Almost after 4 hours, when the sun reached the center of the sky, Michael finally saw the kingdom of Jysel on the horizon. My lord, he was about to use the runic teleportation to reach Caius' mansion when he heard Azazel's voice in his head. Azazel. Michael stopped in his pace by Azazel's voice. My lord, you should come to the dark forest as soon as possible. What happened? Michael creased his brows, turning around. Please teleport here, my lord. The latest studies are on website. Before Michael could question him more, the connection got interrupted. Realizing something was wrong, Michael immediately activated the runic teleportation to reach the dark forest. Back in the dark forest, Azazel was standing in Michael's room alone. He gawked around, waiting for Michael to appear. Finally, when Michael appeared, he heaved a sigh of relief. On the other hand, Michael was in his complete Lucifer form to go all out in a battle. However, unlike he expected, there were no enemies in his room except Azazel. It took Michael a second to realize what had just happened. But it was too late as he got hit by something soft and fluffy in a blink of an eye. Surprise Mickey. Michael was on the ground, and Gaia was on top of him with the brightest smile on her face. Gaia. Michael was startled by Gaia's surprise appearance. She ripped off his mask and showered him with kisses. In return, Michael hugged her and stood up, holding her tight. Since Azazel had done his job by bringing Michael to the dark forest, he quickly left the room, leaving Michael and Gaia alone. Gaia just pushed him to the bed and locked her lip with his like a hungry kitten. I missed you so much. After parting her lips from his, she panted and said, I missed you too. The smile on Gaia's face instantly vanished as she creased her brows. Something happened? With a single look at his face, Gaia knew something was bothering him. Tell me what happened. Michael knew there was no point in changing the subject or lying to her. Thus, he took a deep breath and began narrating everything that had happened since he met Sabrina on the island. Surprisingly, after listening to Michael, Gaia gently patted him on the back. It's okay. You did the right thing. You would have been no different than the fucking Guardians if you had killed her. She is a Winston. She won't break her word. Michael somewhat felt calmed and reassured after hearing Gaia's words. Besides, I am here. You don't have to face the shit alone anymore. Let's kick things up. Michael smiled as she pecked him on the cheek. You're not supposed to get out of Aculon till next week. So how did you come here? Michael asked. Just got an early vacation thanks to Headmistress Kayla. Elidor will be here by tomorrow. Michael and Gaia just lay on the door, staring at the ceiling. Visit. For a better user experience. Dude, you had done some sick shit without me. Gaia sighed as she sighed in disappointment. It's good that you placed a spider in her body and gave her the blood tonic. If she tries to fuck with us, we can fuck her back by making her explode. The healing potion Michael made Sabrina drink was mixed with the blood tonic in case Sabrina tried to reveal his secret to Noah or anyone else. Unlike the spiders Tenulia found in her warship, the new ones Michael placed were enhanced by Elidor's runes and were undetectable. So if Sabrina tried to betray him, Michael could kill her with a snap of his fingers. Besides, Michael could mess with Noah by blackmailing him if the push comes to shove. Although Michael didn't like to use Sabrina as a pawn in a game between him and Noah, there was no harm in having many backup plans. So, what's our next move? Now that I am here, we can cross off some of the things on your to-do list. Giving Azazel his physical body, Michael rose from the bed while ordering the system to take out the body pieces and merge them. Azazel, Gaia called out the butler when she saw the body of a half-elf appear in the room. Gaia approached the body to run her fingers across the half-elf Boda's face. Well, I always imagined Azazel getting some gray-haired human body since he looks like that now. My lady, as Gaia was checking out the body, Azazel appeared in the room. So you were with her to prank me, huh? Azazel looked slightly embarrassed and apologetic with a sly smile. It's okay. I brought you a gift. Michael gestured at the body as a glimmer of joy and surprise emerged in Azazel's eyes. He slowly floated towards the body. My lord, do you like it? Yes, my lord. This body, the energy, it's overwhelming. Azazel stammered. Unlike Michael and Gaia, his demon origin enabled Azazel to sense the overwhelming energy radiating from the body. Now when you are ready, just get inside the body, Michael said and waited for Azazel to enter the body. After he entered, Michael summoned the system. System, take the badass points and merge Azazel's soul with the body. As you wish, host. The system said and took 50,000 badass points as it mentioned to Michael when he was in Everlight. After the system took the required badass points, a golden light shot out from Michael to the half-elf's body. The light soon enveloped the body, radiating an otherworldly whistling sound. We can now take him anywhere with us, right? Visit. For a better user experience, yes. That's the plan. Michi nodded, waiting for the golden light to disappear from the room. The light almost lingered around the body for another 15 minutes. Then after the light gradually faded away, Michael and Gaia saw Azazel slowly opening his eyes, revealing crimson-red eyes. As soon as Azazel opened his eyes, the system brought Azazel's status window before Michael's eyes. Subordinate, Azazel Sebastian Cultivation Level, Soul Refining Stage Level 3 Race, Demon Half-Elf Body, Status, healthy trait, butler unique, loyalty towards the host, 100% skills, phantom possession bind area teleportation bloodthirsty imitator phantom form mind dominator. Phantom possession is the ability of Azazel to possess a weak-willed enemy for a moment. Azazel can bend the space around it to teleport near the host and the bound area. Azazel can absorb blood essence to temporarily grow stronger. Azazel can imitate the host's spells and skills. The imitated skills and spells will not be as powerful as the host's arsenal. Azazel can choose to hide from the naked eyes. Only the host and a chosen subordinate could see Azazel when he's using the phantom form. Azazel's voice could dominate weak-willed enemies' bodies. Michael noticed the change in Azazel's skills. The phantom touch had transformed into the phantom possession. It made sense to Michael as Azazel now had a physical form. Finally, I can serve my lord and my lady to the fullest of my abilities. Azazel immediately dropped to his knees and placed his hand on his chest. The fun is just getting started, Sebastian, Gaia devilishly grinned. Visit for the best no_vel_8_G experience. After giving Azazel a physical body, Michael sent Azazel out for a moment. So I can see you've reached soul refining stage level 2, Michael commented on her cultivation level. Thanks to the resources Mazroth gave all their staff, Gaia was able to reach the soul refining stage pretty quickly. Besides, she still had the 40% cultivation speed boost from the system. It's still not enough. I have to get stronger. What cultivation stage are you at? You are looking at a fusion stage cultivator, my dear snake, Michael smirked. Gaia was completely startled by his words. She thought he could not surprise her anymore, but she was proven wrong at that moment. To be honest, she was speechless after hearing him. Thus, for a few moments she just stared at him without blinking an eye. What the fuck is wrong with you? It's not fair, she stomped the ground, snarling. Every time I think I'm getting close to you, you just jump from one stage to another like crossing a puddle. Michael quickly wrapped his hand around her shoulder and pecked her on the cheek. Don't be angry, my dear Queenie. It'll make you just as strong as I am, you better. I can't be weaker than any of our subordinates. Let's go to that fucking aqua auction and buy something that could make me stronger, and we will go to the treacherous ocean and clean the place out. Gaia's eyes went wide, but soon a grin emerged on her face. That sounds like a fucking dangerous yet my kind of plan. Gaia playfully bit his cheek. The last time I went there, I was pretty weak. Now I will see who's gonna stop us. But before that, we have to go to the auction and knock out a few other things. Like what? Like meeting Dalar and seeing the state of our undead army, Michael answered. Let's go. Michael then willed the system to activate the runic teleportation. In a blink of an eye, they appeared in the dimly lit halls of the crypt, where Jonah and Dalar were busy dissecting an undead on an oak table. Visit for a better_user experience. What the fuck are you two doing? Gaia's voice echoed through the empty hall, startling Dalar and Jonah. The previously clean, shiny hall now looked bloody and dirty as Michael felt like he had entered a slaughterhouse. The place was a horror house and Michael did not like it. My lord, my lady, Jonah and Dalar shivered, looking at the anger within the Dark Queen's tone. Her crimson-red eyes glistened behind the skull mask. Is this how you two keep our base? She clenched her fist. Luckily for Dalar and Jonah, Michael grabbed her hands before she blasted them away with a spell. The two of HRM quickly dropped to their knees. Unfortunately, due to their unwavering focus on unveiling the mystery behind the undead, they failed to notice the miserable state of the crypt. While Gaia was murderously looking at the two of them, Jonah looked around to see the golden walls of the crypt stained with blood and gore. The air reeked of a nauseating rotten smell. Well, despite the obvious sad state of the crypt, what have you two found? Michael sighed inside and asked them. You two better have some fucking results. Gaia was on the verge of breaking their arms for making the crypt a slaughterhouse. Sensing the anger in her tone, Dalar quickly opened his mouth, fearing that even a second of silence could result in their demise. We may have found a way to make the undead army stronger, my lady. As soon as Gaia heard the words, her anger vanished into thin air. All thanks to this, my lord. With a flick of his wrist, Dalar took out a Stormville mountain crystal. The pink crystal dimly glowed from within on Dalar's palm. Before Michael departed, he handed over a few prototypes that could enable his subordinates in the southern continent to use Arch Energy. These prototypes were obviously powered by the Arch Energy crystals. Dalar was one of the subordinates who received the device. At that time, when Michael built the device, he was only a 4-star inventor. But now he could perfect the device thanks to his 5-star inventor level. The crystal mixed with human blood activates the energy veins in their bodies again, my lord. Michael was truly surprised. If what Dalar said was correct, he could power up his entire undead army. The reason why the undead couldn't use arch energy or cultivate was that they lacked a functioning brain and the decayed energy veins in their bodies. The alpha undead kinda replaced the undead's brain because the alphas functioned as the brains by controlling them. Therefore, if Dalar could revive the energy veins in their bodies, Michael could theoretically make the undead cultivate. The latest _IP_SODIs are on the website. But something told Michael, it wouldn't be as easy as Dalar made it sound. Human blood? How much human blood are we talking about, and can you permanently revive their energy veins? If we get the blood of a powerful being, I have confidence we can permanently revive their energy veins, my lord. Unexpectedly, Dalar's confident tone surprised Michael. We still need more crystals and blood to determine how much blood we need, my lord. Jonah opened his mouth. Despite the fact Jonah was actually asking for human blood, he felt excited rather than disgusted or nauseated. We can give you blood and crystals. But I expect solid results, Gaia exclaimed. Also, I want the two of you to build a sick house for your slaughterings outside. We are on a huge island, for God's sake. Use your brains or I will carve it out of you. She is right. Build something for yourself out there. I have big plans for this place. Michael nodded. How many undead do we have right now? 2,500, my lord. The angels harvested all the powerful netherals and hunted down the rest. Mitchie clenched his fist. Does that mean you can't summon netherals anymore? Gaia asked as Dalar hesitantly nodded. Shit, Gaia cussed and looked at Michael to know his thoughts on the matter. It's just a minor setback. We can still make more undead. Gaia did not need Michael to explain further as she had already grasped his plans. We don't need any more undead now. You two focus on building yourselves a workshop outside and find a way to make my army cultivate. After giving Dalar and Jonah their orders, Michael did not linger around in the crypt anymore. Instead, he teleported back to the dark forest and flew towards Bradford. Visit. For a better user experience, ever since Ghost separated Bradford from Bredia and declared the barony as a kingdom, Bradford had gone through countless struggles. However, after Ghost's visit to Bredia, things took a turn for the better. Kingdom Bredia had released all the prisoners and stopped harassing the travelers and merchants. Although their king Ghost was not there with them to govern the kingdom, the elders and the Sunrise sect ruled the kingdom in his stead. As a result, Bradford finally began to thrive under the leadership of sect leader Claire and the talented elders who managed Bradford's various ministries. When Michael and Gaia saw River Town appear on the horizon, they stopped flying to bask in the sight's beauty. The setting sun painted the kingdom with its dimming golden light. Under its warm light, the farmlands surrounding the town glimmered like a jade stone blanket. The river crisscrossed throughout the town contained countless fishing boats and merchant ships. Even though the dawn was approaching, the river town didn't stop buzzing with crowds and carriages. Most of the carriages followed the main paved path and all shared a common destination, the Hades. The green lush mountain chain surrounding the town competed with the farmlands and the river to see who added extra charm to the town. Even from a distance, Michael could now see the buildings of the sect in the mountains, especially the majestic manor of sect leader Claire. Before stopping at Hades, Michael decided to stop by the sect so he could meet Olivia and reassure her that nothing had happened to him. Besides, it was time Gaia had returned to the sect. So you told me Ricky and Olivia are in love. What are we gonna do about it? Asked Gaia while slowly flying towards the sect. I think I should talk to Reginald about his daughter's future. Ricky is a good guy, and if Olivia married him, she'd always be close to us. That is advantageous to us. After all, we need Olivia to be our head of the majestic chain. Speaking of the majestic chain, don't you think it's better if we open several branches across the continent? Now that most of the alchemists are dead and rotten, your market value would have gone through the roof. We can press this opportunity and make millions. You speak my mind, Gaia. The only problem is, can you refine pills and potions for all the branches? Gaia questioned Michael. Not that she doubted his ability, but rather, she doubted he would have enough time to sit around and refine pills and potions instead of focusing on dismantling their enemies. I already have a plan in mind, but fortunately Michael had a solution for the alchemy problem. Since Michael upgraded the inventor level to 5-star, it was only a matter of time before he built a contraption that could brew pills and potions automatically without his intervention. After building it, Michael just had to teach Olivia how to operate the contraption, and it could pump out 100 pills and potions a day. However, he must find a suitable place to build such a contraption if he doesn't want rogue cultivators or powerful families to rob him blind. Does it involve Olivia? Asked Gaia. Yes. And also our allies. I think it's time we paid a visit to the Holy Church. Michi grinned. Visit? For a better user experience, Holy Church? What? Gaia was confused as she couldn't guess why he suddenly wanted to visit the Holy Church. As far as she was concerned, they had to stay as far as possible from the Holy Church. Hitting two birds with one stone, Gaia, Michael said, smiling, and sped up towards the sect. Look. Hey look. It's Sister Elia. Brother Ghost. As soon as the disciples saw Michael and Gaia in the sky, the disciples roaming around the sect began to cause turmoil. Michael waved at them for a few moments before flying directly into Claire's manor. Right then, Claire was meeting with a few elders from the other sects and discussing merging the sects with the Sunrise sect. You don't have to worry about independence, Elder Marcy. We will provide everything you need and let you govern yourself, except our elders will offer you guidance to make the sect greater. Claire sat with one leg atop another. By sitting like this, she looked extremely dominant. Coupled with her core strengthening stage level 8 cultivation, the aura she radiated made the elders absolutely submissive. If you are in agreement with our terms, visit Broa Driver and meet Elder Ella there. She will guide you through the process, Claire said. It will be a pleasure to be a part of the Sunrise sect. Sect leader, a brown-haired man, stood up from his seat, bowed towards Claire, and shook her hand with absolute respect in his eyes. Instead of entering the hall to meet Claire, Michael and Gaia waited in the hallway looking at Claire. The elders finally winded up the discussion a few minutes later and stood up to leave. Only then did they notice Michael and Gaia. When they saw the couple, the elders were startled. They might haven't recognized Gaia, but they recognized Michael almost instantly. Young Master Ghost. No, Your Majesty Ghost. Relax, ladies and gentlemen. Michael raised his hand with a calm smile as Claire's eyes went wide. Elia. The sect leader almost dashed at Gaia, ignoring the elders. Fortunately, she controlled the urge to hug Gaia for a few moments. After exchanging a few pleasantries with the elders, Michael respectfully sent the elders away. How is it going, Claire? Gaia gently punched Claire in the shoulder, only to get hugged and squeezed by the blonde. It's so nice to see. Where were you all this time? Michael calmly rested his butt on the comfy sofa and waited for the maid to stop cowering in the corner and come to him. You know, having some alone time. Cultivating, adventuring, and murdering humans. Huh? Just kidding. Except for the last part, Gaia chuckled, making Claire frown. Kidding again? The latest _sodies are on website. Gaia patted Claire on the back and sat on the sofa with her. Finally, the young maid who was cowering in the corner decided to approach them. 3 avocado juice, Claire ordered. Yes, sect leader Claire, the young girl shivered, stuttering in fear. Who is she? It's a new rule of the sect. All the young people have to do some part-time jobs as a part of their studies. We believe it helped them sympathize with the commoners more, Claire explained. Ghost? Out of the blood, Olivia dashed into the manor with a pale face full of sweat beads. Told you it'll be fine. Claire was confused as Olivia dragged herself towards Michael and sat beside him. Soon Ricky and Daniel entered the room. By the fear in Ricky's eyes, Michael could say that Olivia shared what happened on the ship with Ricky. As a result, he had to go through what happened during the alchemy competition from the beginning to the end when he got kidnapped by the pirates. Of course, Michael told them not to ask anything about what happened after the pirates kidnapped him. He had to wait to hear Sabrina's story before spreading another one. After everything was said and done about the alchemy competition, Gaia finally turned her gaze toward Olivia and Ricky. Olivia quickly realized the meaning of Gaia's sharp gaze while sitting beside Michael. Ricky on the other hand stood behind a sofa facing Claire and Michael with Daniel. So when were you two planning to tell us? Especially you, Ricky, Gaia said, raising her one brow in the shape of a sword. It's what? Cat got your tongue? Yet again, Claire was confused as she had no idea what was happening. She was too busy with the sect and Bradford business to notice the love tension between Olivia and Ricky. However, Daniel knew about their relationship, but he didn't get a chance to tell Ghost. Still, Daniel always advised Ricky to come clean with Ghost. These two are in love, Gaia broke the news to Claire. What? Claire couldn't help raising her voice in shock. It's okay, Ricky. You guys don't have to be scared. You did nothing wrong. I already dealt with Noah. What do you mean dealt with Noah? Claire's heart skipped a beat, thinking Ghost had killed Noah. Why don't you explain, Olivia? Michael looked at Olivia, wordlessly telling her to tell everything related to her marriage agreement with Noah. It took Olivia another 10 minutes to bring Claire up to speed. So much had happened, yet I knew nothing. I have to get some free time, Claire massaged her temples. But suddenly Claire opened her eyes so wide Michael could see the sparkles in her eyes. Visit. For a better user experience, why don't we have a girls' night in Hades? After we deal with Lord Reginald? Speaking of Lord Reginald. Ricky, send a messenger to Lord Reginald and ask him I want to meet him tomorrow morning. Really? Ricky sounded relieved and almost excited. Yes, really. Now go. After Ricky, Daniel and Olivia left the hall, Michael decided to talk to Claire about the state of Bradford and his future position in the sect. Sect leader Claire. I think it's time I graduate from the Sunrise sect and let the Sunrise sect outshine me. Claire was surprised for a moment, but soon she just sighed. I understand you. I mean, you must be stronger than your sect leader. Way stronger, Gaia exclaimed. So what's the plan? Asked Claire. Between us, I'll always be the guardian of the sect. But to the outside world, I graduated from the sect. I will be nothing more than an old student. Claire listened to Michael's plan without uttering a word as he continued. As for the matter of Bradford, I'd prefer if you merge the kingdom with a sect. It was not Michael's idea to acquire the kingdom into the sect but Gaia's. No sect had ever acquired a kingdom. Hence, if the Sunrise sect took over Bradford, it'd be the first time in history. Think about it, Claire. After taking over the kingdom, all the citizens of Bradford would be our disciples. You will have an army to defend the sect in the future against your foes. Let's be real. Countless people might be conspiring to bring us down as we speak. So we need an army, Gaia exclaimed. Besides, it'd be less complicated to rule Bradford as the Sunrise sect rather than a separate place. We got your back, Claire, as always. Gaia wrapped her hand around Claire and reassured her. Take your time, sect leader Claire. I know it's a big decision. But trust me, it's better this way. Well, I have to talk to the elders, but are you sure you want to do this? By doing this, you're basically throwing away being the king. Michael, on the other hand, just shrugged. I don't like being the king anyway. It's not my style. Plus, being called your majesty feels wrong and weird. Really? That's your reason? Claire sighed. You basically went to war with King Bredia and killed Princess Catherine. Both of them were being such a bitch at that time. Just take your time and let us know your decision, sect leader Claire. Visits. For a better user experience, please, call me Claire from now on. Just like your majesty ghost, sect leader Claire feels wrong and weird. Claire giggled as Michael stood up to leave the manor. Fair, Michael nodded. And Gaia, girls' night? Do not miss it. I still haven't forgotten you didn't throw a gala for getting engaged. The last time we tried to do that, a bunch of morons ambushed us and blew Hades to hell. So you sure you still want a gala? I am planning this time, and no offense, ghost, I'll be open for only girls, Claire said to Michael. Whatever you do, do it before the end of next week. I am planning to go to our aqua auction? Claire asked. Yeah. I heard I can get some cool stuff there. Before traveling to R, however, Michael planned to deal with the pirates in the southern continent and the status of Giselle in the ongoing war between Prerid and Myril. The last time Michael heard, General Quintus was viciously attacking Prerid and slowly marching towards Prerid's capital. He assigned Kane to deal with the problem, and it was time to check on Vidora. After leaving Claire's manor, Michael and Gaia went to see their herbal garden. The herbal garden was concealed with lush green veins and giant trees. If one looked at the mountain from the distance, they wouldn't see the glass dome covering the herbal garden but the lush green mountain. As they walked towards the herbal garden, breathing in the aromatic air, they felt calm and soothed to their soul. The sound of birds chirping and crickets chittering in the herbal garden was almost music to their ears. It feels like yesterday I planted my first herb seed. 1,000 years, blue putna flower, Michael said to Gaia. Time does fly fast, Gaia nodded. After walking food for a few more minutes, they reached the colossal glass dome surrounding the herbal garden. At that moment, the herbal garden was almost half the size of a football stadium. But the crowded herbs and vegetation made the garden somewhat look smaller. As soon as they entered the garden, a few youngsters welcomed them with a bow. How is the harvesting going? Michael asked the blonde-haired youngster. Since he was one of the senior disciples in the sect, he didn't act like the others when he saw Michael. Pretty great, brother Ghost. We just brought some compost from Royal Land, and I heard Elder Reiner has ordered some rare herbs from the Phoenix auction house. Cool. Continue your work. I just come here to pick some herbs. Michael and Gaia walked away from the youngsters, leaving them to their work. I still can't believe that tiny human is in seclusion. Do you think she is some kind of genius? Gaia asked while Michael was plucking some red orchids with care. If she continues to cultivate at this rate, she would be considered as one. After all, Cindy consumed pills and potions worth millions. That could make even the mediocre cultivator a genius. Yet here you are plucking orchids to make her another potion, Gaia chuckled. It will help her reach the core formation stage quicker. I miss having her around. What about me? Do you miss having me around? Gaia asked in a seductive tone and moved closer to him. Visit. For a better user experience, would you believe me if I said no? Those were the last words that escaped Michael's mouth before Gaia locked her lips with his. The next day Michael woke up early and went straight to Hades before sunrise. He had a whole of things planned ahead and decided to start the day with some strongly brewed coffee. After the ambush, Michael hired Lord Malin to provide 24/7 security to Raylene, Hades, and the Majestic. Hence, when Michael and Gaia arrived at Hades, they were greeted by 2 core-strengthening stage guards. Lord Ghost, Lady Elia, the 2 guards flanking the door bowed their heads as Michael and Gaia entered the Hades. The newly renovated Hades looked glamorous and fancier than before. Although she hated Fover, the dwarf, she couldn't help admiring his skills. Basically, it felt like she had entered another world. God, I missed the smell of this place. Gaia took a long whiff of the air and looked around the restaurant for a few moments before walking towards the table designated for them. Oh my God! As they sat down, Gloria, who walked out from the back door, almost jumped and gasped in shock. Master Ghost, Miss Elia? Michael was surprised too as he didn't expect Gloria to be here this early. You're early? Gaia exclaimed. I always come early to see everything's in perfect condition, Miss Elia. It's not much but always helps to keep the flow running smoothly. Michael appreciated Gloria's hard work. There was a reason why Michael paid a high wager to Gloria. I heard you're planning to open up another branch in Royal Land. Come on, take a seat. Gaia gestured at Gloria to take the seat before them. At first, Gloria felt hesitant even to look them in the eyes. But after spending time with Ghost and Elia, she had grown to respect them more rather than fear them. So instead of wasting their time being reluctant, Gloria took the seat. Tell me about this place, Gaia asked. Well, it's located in the Noble District, close to the garrison. Nice safe spot, big 3-story building and newly built. Sounds great. Any problem buying it? The owner of the building is King Kramer's cousin. He is playing a little hardball. Gaia creased her brows because she sensed a reluctance in Gloria's voice as though she was hiding something. Gloria, after hearing the deep tone, Gloria just sighed. It's just that guy's look, Miss Elia. Doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right the way he looks at Lady Raylene. I don't think he is asking for coins. Arg, I hate this. Michael scratched the back of his head. The last thing Michael wanted was to make an enemy out of King Kramer. Unlike King Bredia, King Kramer was an influential figure and the king of the most powerful kingdom in Elon. The latest _IP_SODIs are on the website. Did you look for another place? Asked Gaia, hiding the anger from showing on her face. Yes, but they are not as good as this. That's why we've been thinking of opening a branch somewhere else. That's a good idea. It's troublesome to deal with these spoiled young masters, Gaia sighed. Although Gloria was slightly surprised, she felt relieved. As you wish, Miss Elia. While talking, Michael saw Raylene walking through the door and was surprised to see Ghost and Elia. Here she is, my favorite cook in the whole world, Miss Elia. Raylene dashed at Gaia and hugged her tightly. Core formation level 7, Michael admired Raylene's cultivation level. It was apparent to him that despite her busy schedule, Raylene was spending time cultivating as he instructed her. It's so nice to see you. Where have you been? Gaia made Raylene sit beside her and ruffled Raylene's golden hair. You are glowing, Gaia commented on Raylene's silky smooth, glowy skin, making Raylene blush. How about we all have a freshly brewed coffee and talk? Michael felt bad to interrupt their reunion, but he wanted that coffee to kick his brain to plan his next moves. Give me 10 minutes and he'll bring coffee with Miss Elia's favorite cookies. You are such a treasure. Gaia pinched Raylene's cheek to the point it turned red as a ripe tomato. You can go ahead with your work, Gloria. Michael sent away Gloria so he could start planning with Gaia. You are not going to kill him, huh? Michael raised his brows, showing his disbelief. Of course. My word is my bond. Michael chuckled, seeing her placing her 3 fingers on the chest. But that doesn't mean he won't die. Arius in Bradford, right? Michael nodded. When Michael met Arya last time, he ordered her to escort her brothers to Bradford and contact Sadie to get the twins into the military. Thanks to Sadie, Titus and Optimus had become the soldiers of Bradford's army and waiting for the Dark Lord's further instructions. It's time she does a little reconnaissance in Royal Land. What are you planning? Michael asked curiously. Visit. For a better user experience, a pervert fucker like him can't live without gala and parties. I bet he's having a party this weekend. So So we crash the party, Gaia shrugged. We can't. He dies and we might become suspects. Not if he goes nuts and kills himself. Gata grinned devilishly as Michael understood her plan. If someone killed that young master, the Guardians or the King's Guards might make the connection to Michael. However, no one would bat an eye if he went nuts and killed himself as Gaia said. Fortunately, Michael happened to know how to make him go crazy. Where is Aladir? He should have gotten out by now. Gaia watched the rising sun through the window and wondered. While we are waiting for him, tell me where I get these things. Michael quickly scribbled a list of things on parchment and slid it towards Gaia. Black ivory, clean-cut sapphires, meridian or Ritzbury oil. Gaia read through the list of items and looked confused after reaching the list's end. What the heck are you planning to do with all these items? You can't get these items in a common auction house. Most of these items are pretty rare. I know someone who could get these items, but I don't think you'll like him. Who? Michael asked. Lord freaking Julius of Phoenix Island. Cool. However, Michael surprised Gaia with his calm tone. Well, send Daniel to meet Julius on my behalf. Wow, I thought you will be mad or what, throw a tantrum. Look, I am a fusion stage cultivator now. Holding a grudge against a puny core formation or core strengthening man is beneath me. Honestly, I don't think Julius is holding what I did against him either. Let's just send Daniel and get these items from him. When did you become such a saint? Gaia couldn't help rolling her eyes as she kinda expected Ghost to go to Phoenix Island and decimate everyone in his path or at least kick Julius' butt. After all, Lord Julius tried to kill Ghost when he killed the group of youngsters who tried to kill Gaia. Yet he proved her wrong by forgiving Julius. But I get to kill him if he still acts like a bitch. Visit? For the best no_vel_underscored_singy experience, fair enough. Unlike before, Michael did not have to constrain himself from making enemies. On the contrary, it was the people of Elon who shouldn't make an enemy out of Michael. As a fusion stage cultivator, Michael had the power to wipe out many noble families and sects from the face of the world. At this point in time, only peak-level fusion stage or cultivators above them could stop Michael. As they were talking, another figure entered through the door and this time it was Aladir. He strolled toward Michael and Gaia like he owns the place with his head held high. Look who decided to show up. Since they were in Hades, instead of bowing, Aladir just nodded and took the seat before them. Where is Nightmare? As soon as Aladir settled down, Michaela asked him about Nightmare. The moment we got out, he went to meet you in the sect. I bet he is with Claire right now, Gaia chuckled, imagining Nightmare in a bathtub full of bubbles. Aladir. Michael nodded at Aladir as the latter quickly drew a rune on the table. The dark red rune resembling a hawk glistened for a moment before vanishing into thin air. Now no one will be able to hear us. Good. So now he is here, tell us what's our next move is? Gaia asked Michael. To be honest, Gaia felt overwhelmed by the problems in front of them. Until now, their enemies had the advantage of being stronger than them. That had changed now. Therefore, Gaia wanted to tackle the problems head-on. First things first, we need to finish what we started. We are going to Gisel and equip Big Bertha with mortar. Man, I need to see this mortar you two constantly nag about in action. Has they finished forging it, my lord? Maxine will meet us at Corey's Island with the mortar. After we finish that, I am planning to visit Aiden. We can't delay making the southern continent our strong base anymore. On one hand, we have the mysterious clan of vampires who seem to be far more powerful than we imagined. On the other hand, we have Skyhall and Guardians to deal with. So I think we will all agree when I say we turn the tables to our favor and conquer the southern continent once and for all. Gaia bobbed her head up and down excitedly. But before we do that, we have an ally to make. Michael paused for a moment. The Holy Church. I am going to make a huge sum of $5 million donation in my name against the Church's war against the Dark Lord. Ooh, I get it. After deeply thinking for a few moments, Gaia understood Michael's plan. Don't tell me you don't get him. You are thousands of years old. Just use your old brain and figure it out. Why does Ghost need the Holy Church as his ally? The latest _AP_SODIes are on the website. After seeing the amused look on Michael's face, Aladir really started to pick his brain to understand his plan. As far as Aladir heard from Michael, the Holy Church was hunting the Dark Lord in full force. Hence, he couldn't help wondering why Michael needed to meet the powerful organization that hunts him. After planning his next moves, Michael waited for Reginald to arrive at Hades with Gaia. As time flew, more and more nobles entered the Hades, and the restaurant began to get busy. Not even an hour past opening the restaurant, yet all the tables got filled with nobles. A few nobles looked surprised to see Michael, but they didn't bother Michael. Finally, after the sun ultimately rose out of the horizon, Reginald entered the Hades with Olivia and Ricky. Lord Reginald, Michael stood up to firmly shake Reginald's hand. Gaia also shook his hand before everyone settled into their places. "We will have 3 specials please," Michael ordered the food on behalf of Reginald. "Master Ghost, I heard about what happened in the alchemy competition. Scary business. Thank you so much for taking care of her." Reginald showed his gratitude to Michael with a nod. "Lord Reginald, I asked you here to talk about Olivia. Normally I wouldn't poke my head into others' business. But she is not an outsider. She is my student, and as a teacher I can't ignore her well-being. Hear him out." Gaia cut Reginald short when he was about to interject Michael. "I don't like to beat around the bush. These 2 are in love," Michael pointed at Olivia and Ricky, "and I want you to marry them. If you are hesitating because he is not noble and not strong enough, this will reassure you." Reginald noticed Michael taking a parchment from his space ring and writing something on it. "This contains my word to you. In 2 years, Ricky will reach the soul refining stage. In 2 months he will be appointed as one of the elders of the Sunrise sect and no longer be just a henchman." Everyone except Gaia was startled. Teacher?" Olivia stuttered as Michael slid the parchment towards Reginald. He took it in his hand and glanced at Michael's words. "I think we will both agree that at the soul refining stage, Ricky can protect Olivia without anyone's help," Michael calmly said, "and as an elder of the Sunrise sect, he will be influential and have a status higher than many nobles in Elon," Gaia exclaimed after Michael. Reginald was simply speechless while Ricky felt like he was about to faint. "You have to think of your daughter, Lord Reginald. She asked for your permission because she loves and respects you. It's time you return the same gesture to her. If she marries another guy she will just be a wife. But Ricky will treat her like a queen. He is a nice guy." Ricky's eyes watered hearing Ghost vouch for him. On the other hand, Reginald just stared at Ricky and Olivia before sighing. "Do you really think he can reach the soul refining stage within 2 years? The latest _sodies are on the website. I don't think. I know you have my word." After getting assurance from Michael, he couldn't reject Ricky anymore. Besides, Noah Winston had called off the marriage, so Reginald had no choice but to accept the deal from Ghost. "And Ricky," while Reginald was pondering, Gaia turned her gaze towards Ricky. "She is the only girl in your life. The only tears I want to see in the green eyes are happy tears. Otherwise I'll break your bones, make a soup and feed it to you," Gaia threatened Ricky, and by the coldness of the tone, Reginald could tell she wasn't kidding. "What's your answer, Lord Reginald?" Reginald looked at Ricky and Olivia yet again and heaved a long breath of sigh. "I have no objection to the marriage between them. We shall marry them after he reaches the soul refining stage." Not that Reginald wanted Ricky to fail, but he truly wanted someone powerful to protect his daughter. That was the main reason why Reginald rejected Ricky. However, now that Ghost reassured him, he truly believed Ricky could reach the soul refining stage. As far as Reginald was concerned, Ghost could do anything if he set his mind to it. As soon as Reginald agreed, Olivia lunged at her father and hugged him tightly. Meanwhile, Ricky almost grabbed Michael's feet, but Michael quickly stopped him with a gust of wind. "You and Daniel find some associates for you. From tomorrow the 2 of you will start cultivating like never before. Elia will give you a training regiment you must follow." Ricky bopped his head up and down. Although Michael could provide Daniel and Ricky with pills and potions, without hard work and a strict training regiment, they wouldn't reach the soul refinement stage in a million years. Since Michael gave Reginald his word, he gave the responsibility of training them to Gaia. After sending the happy love birds away, Michael started to talk about the future of the Majestic. "Lord Reginald, we have a unique opportunity in our hands. You know what that is, right?" Reginald nodded. "Almost 80% of the alchemists in Elon and Azer are wiped out. So we have a huge vacuum of alchemists. Don't you think it's time to hike the price up a bit?" asked Gaia. "Definitely. Your pills and potions already have a huge demand. In fact, the demand is way higher than the products in our hands. I can get our team to assess the market and get a rough idea of how high we should raise the prices. That's good. But I am also thinking of expanding the Majestic, Lord Reginald. Between you and me, I am planning to make Olivia the head of my Majestic chains. What do you think of Olivia getting a share in profits?" Reginald became speechless. Even 10% in the profits would settle Olivia for life. In fact, she would surpass Reginald's net worth in a couple of years if Ghost did what he said. As a merchant, he could tell how much of a golden opportunity this was. Visit. For the best no understanding experience, it'd be wonderful, Master Ghost. I thought so too. Can you do me a favor, Lord Reginald? Of course, Master Ghost. Reginald was too excited as he had already started to imagine Olivia as the head of Ghost's majestic chain. I need good places to open up branches. Can you get your team to find me some great places and their prices? Consider it done. I'll have the list brought to you in a few days. Reginald already had a few places in mind. Thus, finding Ghost a few suitable places wouldn't be difficult. Besides, Reginald would provide his full help to Ghost to build a majestic chain so Olivia could have a bright future and become a renowned leader instead of being an alchemy teacher in Aragoth. After everything was said and done, Reginald left Hades, leaving Ghost and Gaia behind. The duo did not linger around in Hades but went straight back to the sect. At the time they returned to the sect, Michael was hit by a heavy bag, and the bad was none other than Nightmare, who shrunk his size like a fully grown German shepherd. "Nightmare, buddy," the dragon frantically licked Michael's face and showered him with kisses. "It feels like too long." Nightmare hugged both Gaia and Michael in the mid-air. The trio slowly descended onto Claire's mansion and went inside to see Claire. "Ghost," Claire welcomed Michael and Gaia with a grin. "Take your seats." After they all settled down, Claire handed over 2 parchments to Michael. "One is the document for merging the kingdom with the sect, and the other is your graduation confirmation. Since you will be busy getting ready to go to R, I took the liberty to draft them as fast as I could." Gaia took a short glance at the 2 documents before putting them inside her space ring. "Also, I sent some disciples to find you 2 a good place to build your home. By the time you come back from R, we'll have a great place." "Yes, but don't let anyone start building. I want to design every brick of our castle." "Castle?" Claire raised her brows in surprise. "Of course it will be a castle. Not just any castle. It will make the existing castles in Elon look like shabby houses. The latest understudies are on the website. But don't you think it's overkill to build a castle for just the 2 of you?" Claire turned her gaze to Michael, but he remained silent. It was Gaia's dream to design her own castle, and Michael had no plans to stop her from doing so. No matter how much coins it would cost him, he would let Gaia build them their own castle. Plus, Michael loved the idea of living in a castle without all the responsibilities of a king. "Normally I'd disagree with her, but I love the idea of living in a castle. I have some cool ideas for my room." Nightmare excitedly laughed. Hearing the 2 of them, Claire could only sigh. "There is no stopping you, is there?" "Nope," Gaia shook her head. "Trust me, Claire. You're gonna be mind blown. We just need to find some best architects in R. So, have you thought of how you will get to R? You can't fly there as it would take months. If I were you, I'd look for a portal." "Speaking of a portal, do you think the Holy Church would have one?" Michael suddenly asked. "I think so. The Holy Church has a branch in Royal Land and I heard they have a portal there," Claire said. "That's great. I have to meet His Holiness anyways." "Thank you, Claire." Claire wanted to ask why Michael suddenly wanted to meet with His Holiness, but she refrained from sticking her nose into his business. "Why don't you stay here and have that girl's night today?" "I'll go meet His Holiness," Michael said to Gaia as she quickly creased her brows. "Why can't I come with you?" "Because you should spend some time with them." Michael gently squeezed her hand, looking into her eyes. It took Gay a second to realize his true reason. "You know what, that's a great idea. What about me?" asked Nightmare. "Visit. For the best no understanding experience, I'll take you with me." Michael rubbed Nightmare's head and agreed to bring him to the church. It had been a couple of months since Michael visited Royal Land. By the time he flew to Royal Land atop Nightmare, the sun was on the top, scorching everyone under with its heat. Just like before, Michael had to land at the city gates and pay a toll to enter the city. Nightmare shrunk his size smaller to sit atop Michael's shoulder. After paying 20 gold coins, Michael entered the main capital of Royal Land. As usual, the city looked stripped out of a fantasy anime or a fantasy drama, with all the people wearing fancy clothes and members of other races. Many young girls and young boys had their own exotic pets with them, but none had a dragon. A forest dragon was still a rare dragon breed after all. Hence, Michael drew some glances at him while walking toward the town square. According to Claire, the road leading to the Holy Church branched out from the town square. "Look at all those guards." While Michael was on his way to the town square, Nightmare pointed him to the fully armor-plated soldiers patrolling the streets. The soldiers wore pale blue armor with the crest of Royal Land on their chest. However, several groups adorned dark brown armor instead of blue. Michael did not recognize them. Who are they? The Holy Church soldiers, who were called Holy Guards, would be in shining white armor. At the same time, the Guardians always wore golden armor or appeared without any armor but just their crest. He hadn't seen any group of guards in dark brown armor. Besides, they were extremely strong. Each guard wearing the muddy brown armor was at the core strengthening stage. Because of the helmet, Michael couldn't see their faces or identify their race. Ignoring the patrolling soldiers, Michael continued to walk toward the town square. Is that Ghost? Yes. It's him. Whoa, it's really him. He is better looking than I imagined. He does have a dragon for a pet. Cool. Several nobles who recognized Michi by his trademark black robes began to murmur among them. At this time, almost half of Elon knew Michael's face and the entire continent knew his name. If it wasn't for the no-fly inside the city gates rule, Michael could have easily detected the church and quickly reached the place. But, since it wasn't the case, Michael had to ignore their gazes and walk. Aren't we going to visit King Kramer? Nightmare asked suddenly. Visit? For the best no_v_undersng experience we will. But after we meet with His Holiness, Michael wanted to let everyone in Elon know he had reached the fusion stage. It would definitely bring him attention and respect from throughout the continent. He wouldn't have to pay to enter the city at that time, but the king would come in person to receive him. When he arrived at the buzzing town square, Michael was greeted by a man in white robes standing atop a stack of crates and shouting out loud. The vampires are walking among us. The Dark Lord is walking among us. The gods are walking among us. The man shouted as loud as he could. Instead of walking past him, Michael leaned on a brick wall and listened to him with a few others. These are testing times for mortals. We have deceivers leading us into chaos. The Guardians are conspiring against humanity. They allowed the vampires to massacre our brothers and sisters. We are not cattle to be slaughtered. Michael was amused by the man's words. Moreover, the man got quite a crowd listening to him. Usually, the people of Royal Land would ignore people like him, but now, they actually stood under the scorching sun to listen to the man. The hate against the Guardians had become stronger than ever. It was evident to Michael. As the sole orchestrator of the events that ruined Guardian Guild's reputation, Michael was proud and pleased. We have deviated from the Great One and Two. Now we are reaping what we sow. It is time to return to our roots, people. The Holy Church is our only way to redemption. The man looked at the sky, pausing his speech for a few moments. It's not too late. Surrender your souls to His Holiness as He is the Savior of the mortal kind. So the Holy Church is going all out to increase their support, huh? Michael mumbled inside. Instead of continuing to listen to the man, Michael resumed his journey. Considering the people were too focused on the shouting man, they failed to notice Michael. As Michael walked out of the crowd, he saw a deserted lane flanked by yellow maple trees on each side. The yellow-leaved blanketed the pavement, making the path look like it was paved with gold. The wooden board had the words Holy Church engraved on it along with an arrow pointing down the path. Michael and Nightmare took the path in silence, listening to the ruffling leaves and chirping of birds. It was soothing to them. Everything was still and silent until Michael sensed a powerful being approaching him. He slowly looked upwards to see a golden-haired man adorned in radiant white armor descending from the sky. If the word knight had an embodiment, it would be the man before Michael. With the heavy armor clanking, the man landed in front of Michael. His golden eyes stared at Michael from top to bottom. A soul-refining stage cultivator, Michael sensed the man's cultivation stage and wondered why a warrior like him appeared here. Ghost, I presume, the golden-haired warrior spoke with his steel-like voice. The man's face was void of any friendliness. In fact, he stared at Michael coldly as though Michael had done something to him. The latest _IP_SODs are on _the website. One and only. I am hoping to see His Holiness. However, after Michael uttered these words with full of respect, a glint of surprise emerged in the man's gold eyes. The reason? To get His Holiness' blessings and extend my support to the Holy Church against the vampires. Follow me? The man said nothing but these words before gesturing at Michael to follow him. The both of them took off from the ground, and as soon as Michael flew through the maple tree canopy, he noticed a Gothic-style palace in the distance surrounded by moat and alluring sunflower beds. Michael could see the countless arrays and runes around the palace thanks to his X-ray vision. As Michael flew closer and closer, he noticed the enormous statues of warriors decorated the bridge leading to the palace. This castle had clearly stood the test of time, and despite his age, the palace looked sturdy and pristine. This way, the man descended to the ground, landing on the marble floor facing the giant golden door. As though the door had sensed them, it creaked open slowly to reveal the interior. When the door opened, Michael was welcomed by massive braziers hanging from each of the 6 travertine columns that lit up the lower levels of the throne hall and blanketed everything in a warm glow. The countless gems on the rounded ceiling danced in the flickering light while statuettes and memorials looked down upon this opulent hall's marble floor. Broad, stained glass windows depicting ancient legends were concealed by veils colored the same ebony as the banners. The curtains have been adorned with jewels and fine patterns. An ebony rug split the entire hall in half, matching the thinner ones on either side of the hall, while Burgee banners with golden fringes decorated the walls. Between each banner stood several tapers of various sizes. All but a few have been lit, illuminating the 2 giant statues of a man and a woman. Under these 2 statues were 2 striking thrones of iron sitting at the center of a small platform and adjoined by 5 similar, but smaller seats for visiting dignitaries. The thrones were covered in Byzantine carvings, and a lavish lantern was fixed on each of the slim ears. The comfortable pillows were radiant white ebony, and these too have been adorned with embellished quilting. Those seeking the wisdom of the holiness could do so on the plethora of extravagant and comfortable maple benches facing the center of the hall. Those of higher standing could instead take seats in the elegant balustrades overlooking the hall. Entering the hall, Michael noticed a few nobles praying to the 2 giant statues on their knees. Instead of following the man, Michael went to his knees and closed his eyes just like the nobles. The sudden gesture Michael surprised the man yet again. While pretending to pray to the giant statues, Michael scanned the hall. Suddenly, he sensed a body refining stage cultivator entering the hall surrounded by soul refining stage warriors. Michael slowly opened his eyes to see a man in his late 70s with pure white hair standing before the throne. The old man wore radiant white robes that sparkled in the light as he looked to be the embodiment of kindness. There was no doubt in Michael's mind. The old man was the holiness of the Holy Church in the royal land. May the Great One and Two be with you always. His Holiness raised the golden staff in his hand as a warm wave of energy brushed past Michael. His Holiness will now see you, the golden-haired man said to Michael. Michael stood up and slowly approached the older man on the throne with a nod. Please take the seat, child. The old man gestured at Michael to sit in the chair beside the throne. Your Holiness, please give us your blessing. Michael and Nightmare lowered their heads. May the Great One and Two be with you always. His Holiness blessed Michael and Nightmare with a gentle smile. The latest _IP_SODIes are on _the website. It's a pleasure to see a gifted young man like you bow your heads towards the Holy Church. His Holiness softly spoke. I may not be a model citizen, Your Holiness, but I always put my faith in the Great One and Two. They guide me, and after the recent events, my faith is stronger than ever before. Nightmare was truly surprised by the extent of Michael's acting skills. He had to learn about the Great One and Two from Gaia, yet he talked like a die-hard worshipper of the two gods. The Great One and Two protect those who keep them in their hearts, child. Nothing can harm you as long as you have them in your heart. Now feel free to speak your mind, child. This is a safe zone. I want to support the Holy Church, Your Holiness. I don't trust the Guardians, and I firmly believe only the Holy Church can put a stop to all this madness. His Holiness just gently smiled hearing Michael's words. It is not madness but consequences of our sins, my child. We have lost our ways. Temporary pleasures and false gods have blinded everyone's faith. That's why I want to do my part, offering what I can to the Holy Church, Your Holiness. Your true faith is what we need, child. But we are living in difficult times, facing evil every day. To fight those evil and keep the light burning bright, we need everyone's help. Brianna, His Holiness closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened his eyes, a bald woman slowly descended before them. Your Holiness, the bald woman kindly smiled and bowed towards His Holiness. Believer Brianna is responsible for handling donations. You can make your donation no matter the amount to her. Michael nodded and took out a space ring from the system storage. Then he handed over the space ring to Brianna. May the Great One and Two bless your kind heart. Brianna kindly smiled, taking the space ring from Michael. But soon, a glint of surprise emerged in her eyes. I also want to offer a batch of healing potions to the Holy Church every month, Believer Brianna. But unfortunately, I can't make the donations in person. So is it okay if someone else made the donation on my behalf? Brianna was still in shock because no one in Elon had ever donated 5 million gold coins in one go. Even some noble families would give less to the Holy Church, yet a youngster like him made a donation of 5 million really touched her heart. Of course you are a true believer, my child. Only if we had more believers like you. Nightmare almost coughed up blood. Although Nightmare had no idea why he was making donations to the Holy Church, one thing was for sure, Ghost was the last guy who would believe in the Holy Church. The latest _sodies are on the website. Just as Michael planned, after making such huge donations, the Royal News printed his meeting with His Holiness on the front page. The entire continent now knew about Ghost's friendly relationship with the Holy Church, which became another ally of Ghost. Since he made a 5 million donation and offered to send Holy Guards a batch of healing potions free every month, His Holiness gladly gave access to the teleportation portal. Instead of walking into the portal right away, Michael went to meet King Kramer. He would have walked to the castle if he hadn't reached the fusion stage. Michel flew to the castle and landed right before the castle gates. As soon as his feet touched the ground, several armed guards rushed to the gates, thinking they were under attack. "Relax, I am here to meet King Kramer." The soldiers did not loosen their bodies. "Tell your king Ghost wants to see him." "Ghost?" The soldiers were startled. Although they hadn't seen him in person, they had all heard about him. "I thought a fusion stage cultivator would receive a different welcome." Michael informed the soldiers about his cultivation stage in an indirect manner. It took the soldiers a few moments to realize the graveness of the matter. But before one of them could run back into the castle, a group of fancily dressed people approached the gates surrounded by several more armed soldiers. The one who led the group was a middle-aged man with wavy shoulder-length silvery hair. He was neither too short nor too tall but rather had an average build. His thick mustache perfectly complemented his clean-shaven rosy skin. Just by looking at the silver robes and the golden crown on his face, Michael could tell who this man was. "King Kramer," Michael greeted the king with a smile. "Sorry to drop by unannounced. I was in the neighborhood and it'd be rude if I didn't come to meet you, King Ghost." Unexpectedly, it was the silvery-haired woman who greeted Michael instead of the king. To a man who saw countless heaven-defying beauties from both this universe and other universes, Michael wasn't startled by the queen's charm. "Queen Amat, I presume." The guards quickly opened the steel gate between the two parties as Michael stepped forward. "Sorry for all this, King Ghost." "Oh, please call me Ghost." "I insist." The latest _sodies are on website. "As you wish." King Kramer finally opened his mouth and extended his arm to shake Michael's. "Honor to finally meet you, King Kramer." Michael firmly shook his hand. "Please come inside." The queen welcomed Michael with a bright grin on her face. "You must be the only king who doesn't like to be called king and surrounded by royal guards." The queen melodiously laughed while leading Michael to the majestic castle. "What's the point of being a fusion stage cultivator when I have to surround myself with weaker guards?" Now that the queen and king finally heard these words from his mouth, their legs stopped walking. You reached the fusion stage?" An old man carrying a thick book and a staff asked Michi in utter surprise. "Yes. It's hard to believe, right?" Not only the old man but even the king and queen also stared at Michael with clear doubt in their eyes. "I am pretty sure you have a mirror device to check the cultivation stage." "It's okay, Ghost. We believe you." The queen brushed it off but Michael shook his head. "I like to let everyone know that I reached fusion stage, Queen Amat," Michael whispered to her. Still the others heard him. "But can I ask why? Isn't it advantageous to keep your cultivation stage hidden?" Apparently the queen was more talkative than the king. But that didn't mean the king was weak. In fact, King Kramer was at core strengthening stage level 10 while Queen Amat was just at core formation stage level 3. Visit. For a better user experience, what's the point of reaching fusion stage if you can't show it off, Queen Amat? Plus, I don't have to deal with the arrogant young masters and young Mrs. Riddling Elon, Michael chuckled. His words just mesmerized the queen and everyone around. He didn't sound arrogant but domineering. Coupled with his young age, it was too hard for them to believe Ghost was a fusion stage cultivator. "Makes sense." King Kramer nodded as they finally reached the enormous throne hall. "Bring the mirrors." King Kramer ordered the old man and waited for the servants to set up the sofas. After everything was said and done, Michael took the seat facing Queen Amat and King Kramer. Being a fusion stage cultivator felt great to Michael. Normally, one would have to wait for an audience with King Kramer, but now, he entered the castle escorted by the king and queen themselves. He used to feel slightly jealous of Layla and Elder Kane but not anymore. Quickly a maid approached Michael, slightly shivering from top to bottom. "I will take any kind of fruit juice, please." "No booze, thank you." Despite Michael's status and cultivation, he treated the maid with dignity. It was such a small gesture but his words to the maid surprised Queen Amat. "So what's the true purpose of your visit here, Ghost?" King Kramer asked after the maid left the throne hall. He also dismissed the soldiers except for a few royal guards who stood in the corner, watching the king and queen. I came to meet His Holiness and dropped by to meet the two of you because I was kinda hoping I could buy a piece of land in your kingdom. Piece of land? That's wonderful. Royal land would be honored to gift you, Queen Amat said with an ear-to-ear grin as the king nodded. Freebies break friendships, Queen Amat. So I was thinking I could name either of you as a shareholder of the majestic branch I will open here in Royal land. Is it possible? Sorry to be blunt, but I was actually thinking it. In fact, I have the same proposal to the King of Draddle and Kethin too. Really? Queen Amat's voice trailed off as she looked to be in deep thought about Michael's offer. Of course, Michael knew they would accept it, but they had to pretend to be thinking so they wouldn't look like power-hungry wolves. Regardless of their status as king and queen, they would still be wanting to be a part of something big as majestic. What? Because Ghost was a fusion stage cultivator, and being an ally to a fusion stage cultivator came with countless benefits. From Michael's perspective, he needed allies. By making them King Kramer and Queen Amat shareholders in the Majestic, they would not only become his allies, but the Majestic would get the protection of the entire kingdom. Once the king and queen taste the benefits, Michael could reap more from the two of them. I mean, just think about it. An outsider comes to your home and runs things without giving you any sort of tribute. It's not fair, right? That's why I want the two of you to be a part of Majestic in Royal Land. Visit. For the best no-understanding experience while they were talking, the old man who went to bring the mirror finally arrived at the hall with several other nobles. They all had one thing in common: curiosity. The last time Michael saw the device was when he competed in the Elon tournament. Of course, the mirror before him looked a little smaller and lightweight. It was apparent to Michael that the Guardians had made some modifications to the device. One single shout from the dormant Hydra, and they still hadn't recovered their ability to perceive someone else's cultivation level. Let's do this, shall we? Michael rubbed his palms together excitedly before walking toward the mirror. We made some changes to the contraption, Master Ghost. This one is specifically designed to check whether someone is at the fusion stage or not. I hope you don't mind it. Why would I? Michael just shrugged, placing his palm on the mirror. As soon as his palm touched the mirror, he felt a suction force and a warm sensation throughout his body. The mirror remained unmoving for a second before slowly starting to radiate a bright purple light from within. Fusion stage, the old man mumbled under his breath. How am I doing? Michael winked at the nobles as they stared at Michael in pure amazement. Michael was sure they would spread the news of his cultivation stage throughout the continent by tomorrow morning. We should agree, don't you think? Queen Amat whispered to King Kramer. It's always better to have allies, King Kramer nodded, agreeing with Queen Amat's words. Now that Michael had finished proving himself, he returned to his seat. Well, King Kramer and Queen Amat, Michael looked at them for their answer, we will definitely consider it, Ghost. There are some rules and regulations for us to own something. What about we give us your answer, just say, tomorrow night? Queen Amat asked, just as Michael predicted. Cool, the latest _sodies are on the website. At the moment, Michael was in his Dark Lord form in the Dark Forest. Azazel was cleaning the room while Nightmare and Vidora played with each other on the bed. My lord, as Michael was correcting his robes before the mirror, Eladir entered the room. I am ready, Eladir said. Let's go then. Nightmare stopped flicking Iag on the head and leaped to land on Michael's shoulder. You're not coming, buddy, Michael said to Nightmare as he nodded. I know. Where is Gaia though? What's taking her so long to kill one puny human? Iag sounded lazy and tired of playing with Nightmare for so long. However, what Michael said next excited her. She will join us later at the Pirate Haven Aiden. Buddy, Michael looked at Nightmare, return to Royal Land and stay in the room. If anyone asks for me, contact me. Michael had to stay in the Royal Land Castle due to King Kramer and Queen Amat's hospitality. They were quite insistent for him to stay the night. Since Michael did not have any more business to conduct in Royal Land, he agreed to stay the night. As far as they were concerned, Michael was cultivating in his room. Nightmare nodded before vanishing into thin air. After Nightmare teleported to King Kramer's castle, Vidora landed on Michael's shoulder with a single leap. Surprisingly, a rune glowed on their body, and in a few seconds they too vanished. But they didn't teleport like Nightmare. Instead, they just vanished from the naked eye thanks to Eladir's little rune. The cloaking rune would have been perfect for Ghost. However, according to Eladir, anyone above the body strengthening stage could see through the rune. Hence, there was no point in using the rune in the cultivation continent, and Michael had no need to use the rune in the southern continent. He did ask Eladir about placing the rune on his army only to learn that the rune requires a high amount of arch energy. 50 arch energy crystals to hide oneself for 5 minutes wasn't a very eye-catching deal to Michael. Azazel, you go to the crypt and use the undead to clean the place. Dalar and Jonah also need a new working place, so see what you can do. Visit. For the best no understanding experience as you wish, my lord. Following nightmare, Azazel disappeared from the room. Finally, Michael and Eladir were teleported to Caius' mansion by the system, and when they appeared in the room, Maxine and Corey greeted Michael with a deep bow. My lord, Michael flicked his wrist as the throne materialized behind the oak table. He plunged onto the throne as Eladir took a long look at both Maxine and Corey for a few moments. Maxine, Corey, meet Eladir, Lord Eladir. Eladir just nodded. Maxine, is it ready? Asked Michael. Yes, my lord. It's on the Big Bertha. Michael then turned his gaze towards Corey. So they haven't taken our offer? No, my lord. To be honest, I didn't expect them to be this stupid. A true pirate would have seen the opportunity. These are just mindless drunkards. I am glad you've seen the truth, Corey. Pirating is a fragile and dangerous business. If you don't change your ways, eventually you'd go extinct. It's time we root out these weeds and unite the pirates under one banner, my banner. It'd be an honor for the pirates to serve you, my lord. Maxine felt proud and excited to unite all the pirates under the Dark Lord instead of the pirate lords. As a pirate herself, she knew the dangers of being a pirate. It was only a matter of time before the kingdoms unite against the pirates and strike them down. Especially, the Empress of Arar was keen to wipe out the pirates from not only the waters of Arar but also from the southern continent. The latest _IP_SODIs are on the website. However, once the Dark Lord unites the pirates and brands them as something else, the Empress might not go all out in a war against them. Go wait for me on the ship. Michael dismissed the two ladies and turned his gaze towards Eladir. You have something to ask? I don't quite clearly see your play here, my lord. First, you went to ally yourself with the Holy Church and now openly waging war against the pirates. Michael smiled. Who is hunting the Dark Lord along with the Guardians? The Holy Church. Ghost is now a friend of the Holy Church. Other than the obvious benefits such as being an ally to a growing superpower, now I hold the key to the Holy Church's destruction. Eladir looked more confused than before. I can only keep Ghost and the Dark Lord separate for a time, Eladir. Eventually, someone would always figure it out, someone smarter than I am. So when they figure it out, the Holy Church would be the last organization to come out full swinging. Because they would be crucified along with Ghost. By getting donations and being allies to Ghost, the Holy Church has become an ally to the Dark Lord. How could they go against Ghost's allies when they themselves are one? Eladir finally learned Ghost's reasoning behind his visit to the Holy Church. Now that the Holy Church received donations from Ghost, the Holy Church wouldn't be able to wage a war against Ghost because they would be busy fighting the public and the Guardian Guild. What about your other allies? Asked Eladir. I have plans for them. But before someone figure out my identity, I better be strong and have an army strong enough to fight off our foes. We have to, my lord. I have seen what Skyhall could do. They would go to any length to stop you. They are the real evil in the form of good. Don't fret it, Eladir. They couldn't stop me when I wasn't even born. Now I am here and I have a score to settle. Michael willed the system as the skull mask covered his face. Just like a breezing wind, the two of them disappeared from the room. At that time, Gibson was preparing everything for Big Bertha's journey towards the pirate haven Aden. Since Maxine announced to the crew that the Dark Lord would arrive to meet them, the crew was extra motivated and didn't dare to slack off. Unlike the Silent Reaper, the Big Bertha was in pristine condition. No one would believe the ship was manned by the pirates or one would recognize the crew as pirates. Instead, the crew looked like disciplined soldiers wearing black leather armor and carrying new cutlasses. Visit. For a better user experience, of course, they still possessed habits such as getting as drunk as possible and eating without any restrictions. Maxine and Corey were still in the process of turning the pirates into soldiers, and Big Bertha's crew were the front runners to become disciplined warriors of the Dark Lord. Bring it out. Gibson climbed out of the lower decks and shouted at the crew before throwing a roll of ropes down the hole. Pull with all your strength. That thing is heavy. Maxine stood at the other end of the rope along with a group of pirates. The rope was attached to a pulley to make lifting the mortar a bit easier. You can lift it now. Gibson and Maxine heard Shorty shouting from the below decks. 1, 3. Maxine counted until 3 to pull down the rope using every bit of her strength. While Maxine was pulling down the rope, Corey remained at the helm, waiting for the Dark Lord. Even without the so-called new weaponry, the Big Bertha was a beast. The upper deck alone had 10 cannons on each side. In addition, they fitted the Big Bertha with 3 rows of cannons, each with 15 broadside cannons. One side of Big Bertha totally had 40 cannons, making the total count of cannons a whopping 80 cannons. Usually that number of cannons would slow down the ship, but the Dark Lord ordered them to do so despite the drawbacks. When Corey did a test run with Big Bertha, it took them almost 5 minutes to reload all the cannons. Unless they fixed the reload speed somehow, a talented ship captain could do a lot of damage to Big Bertha within 5 long minutes. As Corey was weighing the pros and cons of the Big Bertha, the Dark Lord finally appeared beside her, almost sending shivers down her spine. "My lord, our Dark Lord is at the helm," Gibson shouted as loud as he could when he saw Michael. Fortunately, the mortar was in place, or they would have saluted at Michael and dropped it down the hole. As Michael climbed down the steps from the helm, the crew bowed their heads towards Michael and Ellider. Corey followed the two of them behind to the mortar, where Michael saw the mortar forged with sturdy black metal and engraved with intricate patterns resembling a coiling dragon. The pirates were so curious to see what this thing could do. Under their curious gazes, Halidi squatted beside the mortar and drew a few symbols on its surface as well as inside the mortar through the firing hole. Although it looked as simple as drawing a few symbols, Michael knew the intricacy behind each rune. Among all the specializations in the world, rune mastery was the most difficult to master. According to Ellider, they had only explored 10% of the entire rune mastery. Michael hoped to bring out the fullest potential of rune mastery with the help of the system. Everyone, including Michael, waited for Ellider to finish. When he finally took his hand off the mortar, several runes brightly radiated crimson-red light. Visit. For a better user experience, it's ready. Ellider wouldn't usually show any emotions on his face. Still, even he couldn't help proudly grinning after finishing one of his finest works to date. Gibson set a course to Aiden. When the sun rises tomorrow, there will only be one pirate lord. That you're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.